Yeah. I don't know what happened. I think my Wi-Fi just crashed on me or something. At first, I feared that one fish mob got me flagged using John Cena's theme. Yeah, let me get a new link right quick. Yeah, I guess I didn't get flagged for that, so at least that's something. Alright. Give me a second. Please do not crash on me again. I don't know why I always run into these problems with streaming. I would say I'm cursed, but that's not exactly how that works. Yeah, hopefully I can pick up right where I left off. Let me get the video loaded back up real quick. Alrighty. Hold on. I'm gonna get everything put back up. Alrighty. Now, where were we? Okay, so, yeah, like I was saying, so this death battle apparently proves that not all mirror matchups are bad. Okay, fish boy. Tell me, what is so amazing and not repetitive and boring about mirror matchups? How many times do we have to see a guy with fire powers fight a guy with fire powers before it becomes boring? How many times? How many times have we seen the whole matchup of, oh, well, these characters manipulate electricity, so have them fight? It's boring. It's not fun. And in the case of Goro versus Machamp, what you have here is, oh, well, they're both guys that have 4 arms and use martial arts. That's it. Not saying I've got anything against martial art themed death battles, but there's not really a whole lot going here with this one. Now, I will say, as far as mirror matchups go, Goro vs. Machamp is one of the least offensive ones, but also doesn't do anything spectacular either. It doesn't prove to me that mirror matchups are not shit. And given how often I still have to remind people about why mirror matchups don't work, it shows to me that no, they are not as good as you want to think that they are. And yes, they are in fact lazy, because oftentimes mirror matchups are usually very one note. Like I said earlier in the first stream, there are people that think that Benson versus Nicole is a good idea because apparently, well, one is a strict boss and the other is a strict mother, so have them fight. Does that really sound all that entertaining to you? Doesn't sound entertaining to me.
Because this is just plain fun. And it's interesting to see how one would respond to the other's move, creating a really fun martial arts matchup with 4 times the punching power and 4 times the fun.
By the way, it's worth noting, just from that short little clip, none of the punches have any kind of impact whatsoever. And I don't know if I commented on this in my review, but none of the punching feedback is really all that good. They could have done a little bit better to make the punches look a little bit more vicious. Unfortunately, Sosa, I have no clue what happened. 1 minute the stream was working fine, and then the next minute it just crashed for no reason. At first, I thought since some fish boy over here was using John Cena's theme song, maybe I got flagged for copyright, but thankfully that didn't happen. Now, somebody thinks the video got flagged. From what I can tell, it doesn't look like the video got flagged. I think my internet maybe just crapped out or something. Who knows? Yeah.
Much like Batman versus Spider-Man, there's not much I can say that hasn't been said already.
Okay, now what makes this one an honorable mention? Because this is one I've constantly mentioned as one of the top 5 best, period. The only thing I don't like about this fight is the fucking shitty music. Which is why I constantly give Brandon Yates shit for using hip-hop music, because whenever Brandon Yates uses hip-hop music, bad things happen.
Animation is amazing, the voice acting is great. This actually feels like what a crossover between Metal Gear and Splinter Cell would be like. It's Solid Snake versus Sam.
Oh, hush you.
Watch it if you haven't already. And if you already have, please watch
Suplex. I'll admit, this might just be me, because I grew up on wrestling, but I'm a sucker, and I felt this way about Buffy versus Blade. You'll see when I get around to reviewing it. But when I saw Blade do that suplex, I'm a sucker for that. You show somebody doing a suplex, I'm a happy camper. And I mostly agree. I have no problems with Solid Snake versus Sam Fisher. He just doesn't do a good enough job explaining why is this an honorable mention. That's what I don't understand. So basically, Fish is telling us that every death battle above the honorable mentions is better than Solid Snake versus Sam Fisher. Oh, yes, I did get a new cat. Her name is Elia. Even though she's only 3 months old, she can get pretty loud sometimes. Yeah, I do have me a new kitty cat. I just got her like yesterday, or the day before yesterday. So, yeah, I apologize if you hear her in the background. Usually I'm able to keep her pretty calm, but sometimes she'll start meowing. I'm trying to calm her down right now. Okay, let's get back to the video.
I've never seen Red vs. Blue, but let me tell you.
Okay, this one already you can throw into the fucking garbage. Even though it's just an honorable mention, none of the Red versus Blue matches should be on here. You know why? Because they're just glorified advertisements for the show, because this was back when Death Battle was Rooster Teeth's bitch. And whenever Rooster Teeth would tell Death Battle, you gotta advertise one of our shitty shows, well, they would make Death Battle do it. And this is what gave us such abominations as Yang versus Tifa. So, no, Fish, I don't want to fucking hear why any of the Red versus Blue matches are good. Fuck that. I don't care how good they are. They are glorified advertisements for a shitty Rooster Teeth show. I don't care. Next.
Shows like, I may have to check it out. Because this fun little crossover between two of Rooster Teeth's most popular shows was just that.
Oh, and that's another thing about this matchup. What is the point of having two characters from the same universe fight each other? I've talked about this before with same universe matchups, and this is a reason why I will never cover Gogeta versus what's-his-fuck, because I don't believe in same universe matchups unless under very special circumstances. Like, unless you're dealing with a universe like, I don't know, maybe Fate or something like that, there's no point in having two characters from the same universe fight each other. That's stupid. And again, it doesn't matter what you think of this fight. Yeah, sure, this fight is okay. It's still a glorified advertisement for a Rooster Teeth show. That's it.
Fun. The interactions were funny between both sides. It gave us a cool battle between soldiers, and it truly makes me want to bring the meta into Fanform. I think he's that cool. An opponent for the meta. Well, Neapolitan it is.
Can somebody help me out here? Number one, who the fuck is Neapolitan? Number two, if any of One Fish Mob's fans are here, why the fuck would One Fish Mob want to have the meta fight Neapolitan, whoever that is? Like, seriously, Fish, you are not good at coming up with matches. Something I've made abundantly clear to you many, many times over, and you still never seem to learn your lesson.
And the fight just makes you realize that there are a lot of potential matchups that can be derived from just one franchise. And these are matchups we rarely ever see discussed in any great detail, outside of maybe a few posts or threads online. In any case...
Of course Neapolitan is a fucking Ruby character. Really? So we're gonna have one Rooster Teeth show go up against another Rooster Teeth show. Is that really what we're doing here? Also, really, like, again, I'm not trying to disrespect the man or anything, but really, Monty, you take a character and you literally base them off of a Neapolitan ice cream, and you think that that's cool or clever in any meaningful way. Hey, how about I take an ice cream flavor and turn it into a character? Like, what the heck? And I think Pokemon gets shit on for making ice cream themed Pokemon. Well, Monty makes a fucking ice cream themed character. What the shit? I'm tired of all these Ruby matches. Almost every time there's a Ruby matchup, whether it's Death Battle or what have you, it's always fucking shit.
This is a battle that's definitely a fun ride for both fans and non-fans. And with that said, let's begin the top 10, shall we?
Ilya, stop.
I really shouldn't be ranking this episode on this list, as there are a lot of issues with it. Let's see.
Okay. Well, this is probably going to give me a headache. Also, it's worth noting that we are like halfway through this video and he's still talking about the honorable mentions. See, when I was talking about the honorable mentions in my top 10 best death battle soundtracks, I made sure to get it over with quickly, because I didn't want to take more time than I had to. I think it took me like maybe 5 minutes to get through the honorable mentions, maybe less.
Druid, this episode has really grown on me.
Oh, fucking hell. No, 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 no. Okay, stop. Great, I can already... Well, the chat's gonna start lighting up pretty fucking quickly. Just stop it, Fish Mob. No. This matchup is fucking trash. Not only did they fuck over Hulk for no reason, not only do they misscale Hulk for no reason, but this fight is lame, the animation looks like shit, and the fight ends in the most anticlimactic way possible because they just headbutt each other to death. And once again, it's just another glorified fist fight. They don't have Hulk use any of his interesting powers that he used in Hulk. Like, and you literally acknowledge that this fight has problems. Even as an honorable mention, this has no place here. The only place where this belongs is in the top 10 worst because it's fucking useless and shit. This matchup was always fucking garbage. Do people not understand that I skipped this death battle for a reason? Because I knew, shit, this death battle perfectly exemplifies why mirror matchups do not work. And anybody who thinks that Broly has a ghost of a chance against Hulk is out of their mind. Hulk is a Marvel herald, and Broly is not. Dragon Ball Z, at best, clocks around very low multiversal. Hulk would go into the DBZ universe and bully everybody with no effort. No, Malcolm, Hulk versus Broly is not good. It's just not. Maybe someday I'll cover it in greater detail, but this matchup is fucking shit. It's useless. There's a reason why I skipped it. And while we're at it, the soundtrack is fucking shit, by the way. This death battle has one of the worst soundtracks of any of the death battle soundtracks, and I will cover that whenever I get around to covering the top 10 worst death battle soundtracks. But what was the music to this soundtrack? It is so weak. It's like some like soft rock bullcrap. It is not conducive to two characters that are notorious for rage. Would it make more sense to use some kind of heavy metal or something, or even some death metal? Neither the music fits Hulk versus Broly, and it doesn't help get you amped for the fight. It actually deflates the fight, if anything else. It's like reverse Viagra. That's what the soundtrack is.
Not only do I think it does a much better job at explaining just how powerful the Hulk is, it also fixes some of...
What? How does this do a better job explaining how powerful Hulk is? They didn't mention half the shit in this episode that they mentioned in Hulk vs. Godzilla. Now, maybe this video was made before Hulk vs. Godzilla, but even so. Tell me, those that actually did watch this death battle, did they do a good job explaining how powerful Hulk is? Because from what I've heard, people hate this death battle. And it's mostly just them wanking on DBZ, from what I understand. And no, Broly should not have won this fight. Sorry, DBZ fans.
The issues with the research from the last Hulk episode. They acknowledge that World War and World Breaker as being two different forms. So that's a definite plus. But what
Oh yeah, that fixes everything. They mentioned that World War and World Breaker Hulk are two different Hulks. Wonderful job. How about the fact that they don't mention the green room? How about that? How about the fact that they don't mention that Hulk is the dark half of the one above all? How about that? This is fucking bullshit, One Fish Mob, and you know it. You know this is bullshit. I have to assume he's just trying to get rage clicks here. Keep in mind, this guy used to be a troll before he made his YouTube channel. He was a troll.
Really do like is that it's probably the only death battle episode that's ever come close to reaching the same scale as Goku versus Superman. Yes,
Oh wow. What a consolation. It reaches the heights of Goku versus Superman, one of the most notoriously hated death battles of all time. So much so that Death Battle has redone the fight twice and people still fucking hate it. Not to mention, it's worth noting that One Fish Mob really did not like Hulk vs. Doomsday, but he likes this. And here's what I don't get, One Fish Mob. Why are you okay with Hulk losing to Broly, but you threw a hissy fit about Doomsday beating Hulk? So by your own admission, you think that Doomsday can't defeat Hulk, but Broly can? What kind of inconsistent bullshit is this? I can remember me and Fish, when we used to be friends on Facebook, we got into a pretty heated discussion about Doomsday versus Hulk. He really hates that death battle, by the way. So much so that he made his own version of quote-unquote fix it.
On that episode pretty hard, but even I can't deny just how good the overall fight is. And it is without a doubt the best episode of season 1. So compare...
Oh wow, it's the best episode of season 1. Considering the death battles we actually got in season 1, that's not saying a whole lot. Keep in mind that some of the episodes of season 1 that we got was like Shang Tsung versus Akuma, Luke Skywalker versus Harry Potter, Princess Peach versus Princess Zelda, Justin Bieber versus Rebecca Black.
Comparing it to that, it really is saying something. It feels like an actual Dragon Ball fight. The changing locations, the choreography, the camera movements, and that final battle of headbutts are honestly really epic. But there are some things holding this back for me. I do find some issues with the outcome. I mean, seriously, the Hulk did all this universe-breaking stuff in his base form, while Broly could only achieve something similar in his strongest form.
Exactly my point. Broly needs to be at his strongest to do what a base Hulk can casually do. Sure, if you now here's one thing I'll say. If you have fun watching Hulk versus Broly, more power to you. I'm not saying you can't have fun with these death battles. If you enjoy it on some kind of subjective level, that's fine. Nobody's saying you can't enjoy any of these death battles. But when you're talking about, like, the best death battles on a more objective scaling, that to me says that when you're talking about the best death battles, these are death battles that should be, like, best in terms of animation, research, fighting, music, and I don't get that from Hulk versus Broly. I get that at most, it's a flawed episode of Death Battle that you can maybe enjoy if you turn your brain off and don't think too much about it.
All the while, the rest of Broly's impressive feats was attained through scaling to other characters, including one who has yeeted similar Saiyans with no sweat. But I will admit, I do find it more believable that Broly beats the Hulk than the former. The sound design is another problem.
Once again, this is exactly what I'm talking about, One Fish Mob. This guy can't be fucking consistent. I swear to fuck. Again, how does Doomsday, a guy that killed Superman, that guy beating Hulk? Bullshit. But Broly beating Hulk makes perfect sense, even though you just admitted that Broly needs to be in his strongest form just to achieve what a base Hulk can do. Are you serious here? And people wonder why I gave One Fish Mob so much shit. It's not because I had any kind of vendetta against him. It's because his logic is fundamentally broken. And he's also very lazy. And he makes no effort to try to improve himself. And whenever you tell him to try to improve himself, he has a million and one excuses for why he can't do it. And I can't stand that shit. Have some fucking consistency, One Fish Mob. It's not hard. People can say what they want about me. At least I'm consistent.
And the biggest of them all, in my opinion, it is easily some of the worst this show has ever seen, as none of the impacts from these dimension-shattering brutes feel like they have any weight behind them. Once
again, I would like to remind you, this guy puts one of the all-time worst death battles in a conversation of the best death battles while talking about why the death battle is mostly shit. What are we doing here? Shouldn't you have talked about this in, like, your top 10 worst death battles or something? Why is it here? And at this rate, I know I'm stalling and we're getting nowhere at this rate, but I cannot stress this enough. None of what Fish is doing makes any sense. Why is this here? This does not deserve to be here. Almost nobody, other than maybe Dragon Ball fans that want to stick it to the Marvel fans, like this death battle. Because they for some reason, think that DBZ characters can go up against Marvel characters when they can't.
Of just Dragon Ball effects where actual hit sound effects should be used to this infamous moment. It really drags the fight.
By the way, it's worth noting, similar to Machamp versus Goro, what is up with the hits lacking impact? What was that fucking sound effect? Did you hear that shit? That was pathetic. It's just like... What kind of sound effect is that? What, you can't get some more earth-shattering sound effects? Are you for fucking real? You get the weakest sounding sound effect you could find for Hulk literally slamming Broly into the ground and flinging him 500 miles away? How are you going to make these hits look actually devastating when your sound effects are shit and weak?
And I can totally see how this fight could have been so much better if there was just better sound effects.
Exactly.
And even I can do better than that. Not Not to mention, the model they used for the Hulk is pretty ugly. I get what
Exactly.
they were trying to go for. Make it look like it belongs in the Dragon Ball universe. But he just looks really weird. But
It's worth noting that I had a similar complaint about Hulk in the Godzilla episode. While I don't think that the Hulk in that Godzilla episode looked that bad compared to this one, I did not like the way he looked. The body proportions looked all fucked up, and I didn't really care much for the cartoony style that they used. And here's the thing. How can you say that this makes Hulk look like he's in Dragon Ball Z? To actually achieve that effect, you would have had to use 2D animation because Dragon Ball Z is not known for being in 3D animation. It's known for being in 2D animation, so that doesn't even track well.
to be fair, it is still not as ugly as the model they used for Batgirl. Not to mention, while Ikari is good in a vacuum, I don't think it's befitting of Broly or Hulk.
I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's the song works in any death battle. You could put Ikari, which by the way, how are you going to call the song Ikari? And it's just like so soft and weak. Like hell, right off the top of my head, I could do better than the fucking music that they use. Let's take a brief break real quick, and let me pull up some music that I think would be more befitting. Hold on a second. Let me click out of that. Alright, I'll pull this back up for a second. And yeah, let me just go over to my YouTube music real quick, and let's see what I can pull up. That would would be, I guarantee you, almost any random song from my mixtape could probably be better than whatever that shit was Ikari is, because like I said, it's weak, it does not get you amped up for the fight, and it makes no sense. Why call the song Ikari, and it's like one of the most chill, mellow songs that you've ever heard in your life? It makes no sense. Let's see here. Yep. Here, let's try this. Let's see here. I know it's here. Give me a second. Sorry, I've got like over 1,300 songs in my playlist. Okay. Ah, motherfucker. Let's try this. Which would you rather have? This or Ikari? I'll just let this play for a bit. Come here, kitty. Don't worry, I'm not going to get copyright claimed for using this song. I went out of my way to use a song that would be less likely to get me copyright claimed. This is a song from Final Fantasy X. Don't worry, I'm not going to get copyright claimed for using a song from Final Fantasy. I've used Final Fantasy music in my videos before, never gotten copyright claimed from it. If you thought this was from like a band or something, it's not. This is one of the boss themes from Final Fantasy X. But you get my point. Relax, I'm not going to play a song that's going to get me copyright claimed. I'm not that stupid. But you get what I'm trying to get across here. Like, that song Akari is pathetically weak. Yeah, unfortunately, because my kitty cat tried to run away on me and give me a little scare when I eventually found her, I had to get her a collar with a bell on it, so if she ever runs away again, I can find her easily. So yeah, now that we had that brief break, let's get back to the video. But yeah, this is what I don't understand about One Fish Mob. He'll agree with me on certain things and then still try to say that something is not that bad. Which I really don't follow at all. Like, I probably spent more time on this section than was probably necessary.
When the latter soundtracks usually sound like...
Even these are better.
Still, this episode is more so a guilty pleasure of mine, and I think it deserves the number.
So, then why is it not on your top 10 guilty pleasures, then? If this was on your top 10 guilty pleasures, I'd be perfectly fine with that. There are some Death Battle episodes that I enjoy that I know I probably shouldn't enjoy, because they're terrible. By the way, why give Hulk's iconic "you wouldn't like me when I'm angry" to Broly? What sense does that make? Shouldn't Hulk be having that line, not Broly? What's the point of putting one of Hulk's iconic lines into another character's mouth? I don't get that. This would be like if in Buffy versus Blade, instead of Blade saying the iconic "some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill," Buffy said it for no reason. Oh, so that wasn't even just an honorable mention. No, he put that at number 10, so he actually put it on the list. So that actually makes all of this that just happened infinitely more worse. Okay, Malcolm, How is Hulk and Broly switching catchphrases brilliant? That's lame. That's like in wrestling when wrestlers do each other's finishers. Like, that's not cool. That's just hack as fuck.
Out of all the fights Death Battle has done, this was the one that caught me off guard with just how much fun it was. Now,
Well, somewhere the... Well, wait a second. I'm trying to remember who won this one, because I'm trying to figure out if the Power Ranger fans that follow me are going to be angry or not, because I get a lot of requests from fans of mine that are huge Power Ranger fans to cover the Power Ranger death battles, which I think the only one I've covered so far... Actually, I don't think I've covered any of the Power Ranger death battles. I might have covered the Mechagodzilla one, but I'm not certain. And a lot of the Power Ranger fans tell me that Power Rangers have gotten fucked over in almost every episode that they've done. I can't remember if they got fucked over in this episode or not, because I haven't seen it in years. Also, it's worth noting, this is the episode where they got Matt Pat to be a voice actor. Just keep that in mind.
I am not a Power Rangers fan, nor have I seen anything related to Voltron. But man, what can I say? The animation is really good. This captures the size and weight of each mech, be it in their smaller separate forms or their composited mechs. And the way it's...
Okay, this might just be me, but I don't like the way this looks. You see, the whole point of these TV shows is they were made to advertise toys. So they basically, when they did the special effects of, you know, the Megazord and all that stuff and Voltron, they basically made them, especially in regards to Power Rangers, they made them look like giant action figures. So for me, this doesn't really look like a giant action figure to me. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass here. Let me know if you feel the same way.
Frank does make it feel more like an animated episode of Power Rangers, playing off just how weird and devastating their abilities are, making sure neither looks like they're outmatched at any time. And unlike Hulk vs. Broly, the impacts have a meaty sound to them, so to speak, which is kind of ironic since they're made of metal, but in any case, be it laser or fist, you can feel and hear the impact with each hit. I particularly like how they play with the size differences between both mechs, having Voltron always hovering to compensate for its smaller stature to fight the Megazord on even ground. I mean, I do wish the fight would have taken place in a more interesting environment.
Of course Goku is a fodder, man-child.
And I really do wish there was a fight between the individual Zords and Lions before having them form into one giant fighting robot. But I still think this is easily their second best giant robot fight. Hands down. Wait a minute, you may be asking. Second best? What could be better than this? I'll tell you what's better. Second verse, same as the first. But
Yeah. I do remember reviewing this one, and I'm gonna have to call bullcrap on this one. Hold on. Let me check to make sure my Wi-Fi isn't about to crash on me. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. I just had to check to make sure the connection was good. Because for some reason it says there's only one person in here right now. And I was worried that maybe the stream crashed again. Either that or maybe YouTube is just glitching. Okay. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm just checking to make sure something didn't crash on me because it all of a sudden went from like 11 people watching to 1 people watching the stream. The last time it did that, it crashed. Alright, as long as everything's fine. So yeah, like I was saying before I was checking the stream, yeah, no. This one is crap, mostly because the mismatch between the Mobile Suit Gundam and Optimus Prime was so unfair. Like, the Gundam never had a chance against Optimus Prime. I don't get it. I know some people really don't care about things being mismatched, but to me, this was not fair to Gundam at all.
I enjoyed this one a little bit more. So instead of repeating the exact same...
Also, just like with Hulk vs. Broly, when I was doing my research for the top 10 best death battle soundtracks, I listened to the soundtrack for this episode, and it's shit. It's horrible. I get what they were trying to go for. They were trying to go for more of an 80s style thing because, you know, these are both very old shows, but it just didn't work, like, at all.
I said about the last fight, I'm just going to focus on what makes it better. This is an example of a fight that needed to be done in 3D, because if it was done in sprite, for example, they wouldn't have been able to make it as dynamic as it was. And
Oh, but Fish, aren't you the one who's always telling me that there's nothing wrong with sprite animation and not every animation needs to be in 3D? Like, you're literally just reiterating points that I've been saying for years. That, yes, when you're dealing with sprite animation, it's, unless you're doing it homemade from scratch, it's inherently limiting as to what you can do with it. And this isn't just like a 3D fight animation thing. The same is true with 2D animation as well. The main issue here is when you're using sprite animation and it's not homemade, you can do less with it because you're forced to work, you're forced to write your script around what the sprite sheet has available, instead of being able to just do whatever you want with it. And this is what I find frustrating. When people confirm things that I have said for years, but one Fish Mob is the kind of guy that will tell me there's nothing wrong with sprite animation, not every fight needs to be in 3D, so on and so forth.
I'm even willing to go the extra step further and say this is one of the more dynamic fights in their show in general. Something that stays consistent.
By the way, I don't know if he's going to explain this or if I'll get an answer from him, but what does the word dynamic mean to you, One Fish Mob? Just out of curiosity.
Both in space and on Earth. And I like how this battle is framed. Both are soldiers encountering each other and knowing nothing about the other. But as the fight goes on, they slowly start to understand how the other operates, and they counter each other accordingly. Topped with fun moments like the tire kick and Matrix of Leadership, this makes for one awesome sci-fi battle. This is a textbook example of how to make a robot.
Yes, I checked my Wi-Fi. It's working fine. And it said the connection strength is excellent. It's just for a brief moment I feared that the stream was about to crash. Sometimes, for like a second, my Wi-Fi will like drop in bars. Keep in mind I'm using Spectrum. I'm aware I'm probably not working with the best Wi-Fi here, but it's what I have right now.
No, I never did this fight. What makes you think I ever considered the idea?
Haha. He's bitter because Death Battle did an idea before him. Which is funny, because lately a lot of these Death Battle knockoffs sometimes do episodes before even Death Battle, which is always funny. Like how Animation Rewind got to Ash vs. Yugi before Death Battle did. Also, look, One Fish Mob, you would not be able to do this fight justice because you refuse to go beyond sprite animation. I think somebody told me that One Fish Mob has done a 3D fight. If he has, I've never seen it, because he always has made every excuse in the book to me why he can't do anything other than sprite animation, because apparently, oh, I don't have the budget for it. Like, how has your channel been around for as long as it has? How do you have as many subscribers as you do, and your budget and quality doesn't increase at all? Even the quality of my videos has increased over time, despite having probably just as much of a budget as you, if not less. I mean, if I can produce high-quality 3D models, then what's your excuse?
Okay, this may be the most controversial pick for the list.
All right, let's go.
Okay, make that the second most controversial. But who the cares?
I mean, Fish is... I mean, it depends on what your definition of a small YouTuber is. I am aware that One Fish Mob has a decent amount of followers. I won't take that away from him. But when you compare the amount of followers he has to the amount of views he gets, it isn't pretty. And I've talked about this before. When you're a YouTuber, if you get less views than you have in subscribers, that's a clear sign that you're a shit YouTuber. I'm going to need to take a moment, because I'm trying not to die from a brain aneurysm right now.
Honestly, out of all the fights I've seen in this show, this might just be the most visually interesting, with how many different abilities each character had and how they counted the other with them. From numbers to power to this. The fight always kept me guessing on who was going to win and what crazy trick they were going to pull out. Plus, I personally think it really worked in a way that is both epic and even sometimes funny to watch.
Okay. I know that this is technically not the worst death battle anymore, because it's been surpassed by about 5 other or 10 other death battles at this point. But don't think that I'm not going to still point out how awful this death battle was. For a time, this was the worst death battle that had ever been made. Because the way they lowball, and keep in mind, they don't just lowball Ichigo here. They lowball both Ichigo and Naruto to unacceptable levels. And the way in which they depict certain characters like Ichigo shows a fundamental misunderstanding of how characters like Ichigo even operate.
Sure, since I never had any character from either franchise appear on my show, I really don't know much about either outside of what this episode told us.
Yeah, and guess what? If you go off of purely this episode, you wouldn't be able to learn fuck all about Naruto or Ichigo. In fact, if you all remember, those that have been watching me for a really long time, I played the Death Battle drinking game to this episode and nearly died. I was completely shit-faced not even halfway through the episode. And it got to the point where everybody was wondering if I was dead or not, because of how fucking shit the whole episode was. And let's not forget that this is also an episode in which Ben Singer tried to lie about how that they were the first people to ever animate Ichigo's Horn of Salvation mode. Not true. Because at the time this death battle came out, Bleach Brave Souls already had an animation out for Ichigo's Horn of Salvation mode. And let me check the stream again, because people are dropping in and out of the stream. I don't know why people keep dropping in and out. I don't know if this is my connection or just YouTube being YouTube. But I'll keep trying to push through nonetheless, because at least this will be archived. But yeah, like I was saying, like, you would have to be ignorant about both Bleach and Naruto to be able to enjoy this episode. Because if you're a Naruto fan, this is going to piss you off. If you're a Bleach fan, it's going to piss you off even more, because they can't even get basic shit about Bleach correct. And I've been meaning to get around to talking about this one for a long time. I know I've talked about it in some of my live streams. I know I talked about it in my top 10 worst death battles. But the more time passes, the more poorly this death battle ages. Also, shut up, Malcolm. Bleach Brave Souls is not an obscure mobile game. It is actually a very popular mobile game. One of the top mobile games in the Google Play Store, and has been around for 10 plus years. Bleach Brave Souls is not an obscure mobile game. So what are you talking about, Malcolm? Stop trying to lowball Bleach. Bleach Brave Souls is one of the most popular mobile games. Bleach Brave Souls is on Steam, for fuck's sake. It's not obscure. And even if it was obscure, that doesn't change the fact that Ben Singer still lied. No! Bleach Brave Souls was not obscure even back at that time. Even at that time, Bleach Brave Souls was a very popular anime gacha game. Most people I knew in the anime community, they were either playing Bleach Brave Souls, or they were playing Fate Grand Order. So stop trying to fucking lowball Bleach to justify Death Battle's lies. I'm tired of it. You do that all the time.
So I can't really say if the outcome is right or not. But
spoiler, the outcome was horrifically incorrect.
For what it is, I think it stands up there as probably the closest they've...
Now see, this is a part of the fight that makes no fucking sense. Ichigo downgrades from his Horn of Salvation mode, which is Ichigo at the peak of his power, when he combines his Hollow, Quincy, Soul Reaper, and Fullbringer powers all into one form, and then he downgrades to his fucking Mugetsu form, which is simply just the peak of his Soul Reaper powers. Why would Ichigo do that? That would make no sense. Ever since Ichigo gained his Horn of Salvation mode, he has never used the Mugetsu, ever. Nor would he ever use the Mugetsu, because it's not even his strongest form anymore.
Ever come to replicating the sheer insanity that can be found in some shonen anime. Quit running, coward!
Like, the last thing I'll say about Naruto versus Ichigo is that the only reason why that one is not the worst is because Madara versus Aizen exists.
This is going to get repetitive, so I'll just say it again for the last time. What can I say about this fight that others haven't already?
And somewhere, my Power Ranger fans that follow me are about to fucking blow a gasket right about now. Speak of the fucking devil. I've got a fan in my Discord that was really not happy with this one. And he actually called me on Discord and spent like a good hour explaining to me why Dragon Zord versus Mechagodzilla was bullshit. Even pointing out to me that things like the Absolute Zero wouldn't even be able to work on the Dragon Zord, or any of the Zords for that matter. Of course, Naruto vs. Ichigo being on this list is ridiculous. It makes no fucking sense. Naruto vs. Ichigo... And how are you going to acknowledge that it's so controversial. Like, you know that episode is shit. Maybe I'll show this a little later in the stream if we have time. But if you go into the comment section of Naruto vs. Ichigo, you will see people that were pointing out that Ichigo got done dirty and that this episode is bullshit. Not to mention, this episode is worse because ever since the return of the anime, Ichigo and the rest of the Bleach characters have gotten more powerful than ever before.
This was just a fun battle with a lot of weight behind every impact, with surprisingly good speed for how big these characters are. And
by the way, it's worth noting that if memory serves me correct, one of this guy's top 3 like worst death battles of all time was Godzilla versus Gamera. Just keep that in mind.
A cool dynamic between both fighters. In a way, I weirdly think Godzilla vs. Gamera should have been more like this. My only real complaints would be that I wished it could have taken place in a city because, duh. And I don't think the battle's potential was fully reached either. I mean, both can fly.
So then, why is it on this list? If the battle's potential is not fully reached, why is it on this list? See, to me, if I was ever going to do a video on the top 10 best death battles, which will happen someday, don't worry. But if I was ever to make that list, I would pick death battles that represent the peak of what death battle is capable of. This death battle is mid at best. I would not use this as an example of peak death battle. If I was going to use an example of peak death battle, I would go to Bowser vs. Eggman, for example. Now, I know Bowser vs. Eggman is a new death battle, and I don't think it was out at the time of this video. But even so, like, when I think of peak death battle, I think of Sauron vs. the Lich King or Bowser vs. Eggman. Death battles that are truly without flaw. Even I could not find flaws within those death battles. So if there are flaws here, why is it on this list?
So, I really wish that was used more than not at all. And I could already guess who was going to win based on their research, and by the fact no Power Ranger has won a death battle up to that point. But hey.
Yep, and that is something the Power Ranger fan base that has come to my Discord and YouTube channel has made me abundantly aware of, how frustrated they are with the fact that Death Battle always fucks over the Power Rangers. Which is something, I'll be honest, I hadn't even noticed over the years, which is kind of odd. You'd think I would notice that. Now, I don't know how much this means coming from you, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but I will admit I have not seen Bill Cipher versus Discord yet, so I don't know too much about the fight. I did listen to the soundtrack, though, and the soundtrack really confused me. And I didn't really care much for the soundtrack. But I don't know if Bill Cipher versus Discord is peak or not, but I do also acknowledge that you are a My Little Pony fan. So I'll take that for what it's worth.
This is still a fantastic episode either way, and one I would happily go back to many, many times more. Just like Goro versus Machamp, this was a fight that I could live without, but I am glad it exists.
Okay.
I think this is...
I'll admit, this one really fucking confused me and had me scratching my head when a friend of mine told me about it. So during my hiatus when I was gone, my friend was telling me about some of the newest death battles that were happening at the time. And when he told me that they did Saitama versus Popeye, I thought he was fucking with me. And then I come to find out that it actually was real. And I have mixed feelings about this one, because on one hand, I get what Death Battle was trying to do. They wanted to find an opponent for Saitama that could actually push him to his limits. But was Saitama... Not Saitama, my bad. Was Popeye really the choice for Saitama? Because, yeah, obviously Popeye is more powerful than Saitama. But Saitama is not even that ridiculously powerful in the grand scheme of things. In fact, for the longest time, Saitama was only like star level. Like, Saitama's not even close to the most powerful anime character. You could put Saitama in the Certain Magical Index universe or the Fate universe, and he would get beaten into a bloody pulp.
Probably one of the most creative episodes done for the series. How it starts in 2D, but as their battle goes on, it changes animation styles to reflect the shattering reality around them. How quickly the fight escalates.
I will admit, I haven't covered this death battle yet, so I'm still trying to gather my thoughts on it because I was mostly caught off guard by this death battle. I will say that I do agree with some of the points he's making here. I do think that it was pretty clever that they had, like, the fight break down into different animation styles. I thought that was kind of cool. And maybe someday I'll cover this death battle in greater detail. I don't say I 100% hate the matchup. I just think that Popeye is still an odd choice for Saitama.
Their absurd abilities are on full display. It gave birth to a new meme.
What absurd abilities? Saitama's abilities are not that hard to comprehend. His abilities basically encompass what Dragon Ball Z characters can do. He's just a human that broke his limiter. That's it. He doesn't even have that crazy of abilities. Now, in the case of Popeye, sure, Popeye has a list of ridiculous abilities as he is a Toon Force user. But in the case of Saitama, he's just a guy that can punch things really hard and move really fast.
And the moment where Saitama just stops trying to fight to win but to have fun simply because he's found an equal is really satisfying knowing the character. Also, I could talk about that cursed Popeye model, but unlike Batgirl, I think that was intentional. I don't know. I don't have much to say about it, but this is the one fight I truly say is the one where I can feel how much fun the people creating it had.
He took a big gamble, but now he is scrambled. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man.
Yeah, out of all the season 1 episodes, I think this is definitely one that holds up.
Nope, it does not. In fact, it's a perfect example of why mirror matchups are shit, and what a coinky dink. I mentioned this earlier in the stream, and there it is. By the way, it is worth noting I did not watch this video until now, so I did not know that this was a part of the list. One fish mob is either that predictable or I'm just that good at speaking things into existence. But while I will say, for its time, this is a well-animated death battle, the matchup is completely fucked. Like, they literally have Thor kill Raiden in a single hit from Mjolnir. They didn't even try to hide that. And while I can say that this fight is well animated for its time, I would not use this as an example of one of the best death battles. I do not think it holds up. I have talked about ad nauseum how this is a it's a very bad example of why same power matchups don't work. Because as Death Battle point out in their analysis, electricity does not work against Thor. So let's take a guy whose whole power is using electricity and put him against a guy who can't be hurt by electricity. What fucking sense does that make?
Once again, this proves Mr. Lang can never be.
So I guess if I'm reading this right, by his own admission, he's not being objective about this one.
Replaced. And a good argument for why sprite animation can look just as good as any other medium used in versus debating. And that sound design, you hear every meaty impact that's done. Plus, I also like the idea of how the fight's portrayed. That the much faster Raiden is unable to be hit by the much slower Thor, so he's forced to...
Thor can move massively faster than the speed of light, So Raiden would never be able to outspeed Thor. Sure, he does have his teleportation, but in terms of like combat speed and reaction speed, Thor would beat the crap out of him. Thor is not a slow fighter. Thor is just as fast as any other member of the Avengers. So that makes no fucking sense right there.
To adapt his fighting style to this unprecedented foe. And the one time Thor actually hits Raiden with his hammer is probably one of the most impactful hits in the entire show. And while I am iffy about putting a guy who is immune to electricity against a guy whose only ability is electricity, I could also argue that Raiden does have similar abilities and others that are not mentioned here that could make up for that. But
you could, but it doesn't matter because, like I've mentioned time and time again, how these fights usually work out is one character will usually be immune to the other character's power, and if both are immune to each other's power, then essentially it just comes down to the stats. And unless there's a giant stat gap, like what happens here with Thor, then what you have here is a fight that just quickly either turns into a stalemate or turns into a stomp. Like, you want to try to make this argument of, like, oh, well, Raiden, like, first off, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Please do. But as far as my knowledge, Raiden does not have any immunity to electricity. And there's a difference between being immune to electricity and being resistant to electricity. For example, going to Pokemon real quick, Pikachu is resistant to electricity, but he is not immune to electricity. Now, let's look at a Pokemon like Zebstrika or Electivire, where their special ability, Lightning Rod, actually, whenever you use electricity against them, it makes them more powerful. So the more you try to use electricity on them, the more powerful they become. So not only are these two Pokemon immune to electricity, but it makes them more powerful. Pikachu, though, is not immune to electricity. He's merely resistant to electricity. So unless you can prove that Raiden is immune to electricity, that argument is moot. At best, Raiden might be able to be resistant to electricity, but that means literally fuck all when he's going up against a guy that has a hammer that can casually decimate planets.
in the end, this is easily one of my favorite episodes from Season 1. This is what I like to call the spiritual successor to Thor vs. Raiden.
Okay, it's worth noting, I can't comment too much on this one as I had not seen this episode yet. So unfortunately, I probably won't be able to say too much about this one. But I'll try to provide commentary where I can. Although I will say, I shouldn't be surprised that they made this sprite animated. I had a bad feeling that they would.
This is probably the most unique episode Death Battle has done thus far, focusing on figures from actual legends and myths, while making its analysis segments feel less like a rundown of beats, but more like them telling the stories of both combatants. And the fight, yeah, I love the idea of it being portrayed as a folk tale being read to the audience, with the fight taking place on a scroll that unravels as the fight goes on. It really fits with how ancient both these people are. I also really liked the soundtrack, as it fits both characters and their respective culture.
I will say this, I have not listened to the soundtrack either. When I was listening to Death Battle music for the top 10 best Death Battle soundtracks, there was some soundtracks that I missed. So I have not heard this music, so I can't comment too much on that. Again, sorry I can't provide much commentary here. I do need to watch some of these episodes that I missed. Maybe I'll make a reaction to it in this stream or a later stream. We'll see. That's why I haven't been in too much of a rush to watch certain episodes, because I'd like to be able to save them for potential live reactions. Because I know sometimes I don't always get to do live reactions, where you get to see like my first thoughts on a death battle in the moment.
And the fight itself, while I could have predicted Wukong winning because obvious reasons, it does make you wonder just who is going to win, as neither really dominates the other through the whole ordeal. And it displays their abilities and arsenals really well. And I like the performances, and just how well they are at getting across the personalities of both characters. What more is there to say? This is just a fun battle that brings two legendary...
By the way, I'm going to point this out. This might just be me, but this is a major pet peeve of mine. When people refer to Heracles as Hercules, Hercules is not the proper pronunciation of his name, it's Heracles. Heracles is the Greek pronunciation of his name, and Heracles is a Greek figure. Hercules is the Roman pronunciation of his name, and as Heracles is a Greek figure, not a Roman figure, it makes sense to use the Greek pronunciation. This is one thing I always respected the Fate franchise for, because the Fate franchise uses the proper spelling and pronunciation of his name. Always remember this. It's not Hercules, it's Heracles.
figures together to find out who would win a death battle.
Woo! I haven't had such fun since I fought all of heaven.
What? I don't have an introduction to this fight.
This one I'm fine with. I see no issue here. Those of you will remember that I reviewed this for my Christmas special, called the 12 Days of Death, where I covered 12 episodes of Death Battle in a review format, each on a different day leading up to Christmas, and this was one of the episodes that I covered, and I did describe this as one of the more peak episodes of Death Battle. So I don't have any issues with this being here.
What can I say about it? The banter between the two is really fun and fits both characters. And I think the few interactions they do have...
And I will say, this is one of the few instances where I actually don't mind that this is a mirror matchup. Because sure, I could complain, and I can't remember if I did this in my review or not. I'd have to rewatch it. But normally, I would complain about how this is like a samurai versus another samurai. Oh wow, how original. But I actually don't mind it here because I think Samurai Jack versus Afro Samurai is interesting enough because it's not simply just a samurai versus another samurai, but what it is, you got West versus East. You got Samurai Jack, a very famous and iconic Western cartoon that takes a lot of inspiration from Western media and samurai culture, and then you have Afro Samurai from a very iconic samurai anime. And I actually find that to be very compelling. Even though I know that not a lot of people like it, the reason why I've talked about before, why I think that Goku versus Superman works as a death battle, even though death battle keeps fucking up, is because you have basically the Japanese Superman versus the Western Superman. You have a battle of East versus West. That is what makes Superman versus Goku compelling. Not that they're both aliens from another planet or any junk like that. It's because of the compelling battle of cultures. And I've always said that cultural battles are far more intriguing. I often talked about this, because if you remember back when I talked about how an idea that I have for Blood Royale is Freddy Krueger versus Hellgirl, because it's a battle of horror icons from different cultures. Freddy Krueger representing Western horror, and Hellgirl being even though many people might not be super familiar with Hellgirl, Hellgirl is a very, very popular J-horror icon in Japan. And I think it's a match made in heaven. I think Freddy Krueger vs. Hellgirl is far more interesting than putting Freddy Krueger against somebody like Pennywise or the Hell Priest.
to what is easily the best part, the action. This fight is near perfect. The whole setup feels like an old-timey samurai movie, with it taking place at a misty waterfall on a rickety bridge and the two warriors crossing paths. The movement of their sword strikes...
Now, I will say this. If I had to nitpick anything about this death battle, one thing I will say, and I've talked about this before with other death battles, I do wish we could have a little bit more of a... Ilya, stop playing with your collar. I do wish we could have had a little bit more of an explanation as to why these two are killing each other. I've talked about this before in other episodes, how I don't really like it when characters in death battle just start killing each other for no adequately explained reason. Especially when you're dealing with characters like Samurai Jack. Like, Samurai Jack is not going to just attack somebody for no freaking reason, because because the whole thing about samurai is they're supposed to have a code of honor. So I don't know why these two are just attacking each other for literally no reason. I do wish we could have had a little bit more of an explanation as to why these two are killing each other. I do think Death Battle could have given us a little bit more than just they see each other and they just fight. Okay, well, why are they fighting?
And each strike is hard to follow in the best possible way. The way they utilize their environment is great, and that one-stroke duel is probably, no, scratch that. Without a doubt, the most intense moment in the show, leading up to a great reveal that makes you think one...
Well, this might just be me, because, you know, I'm very familiar with Samurai Jack, but I saw the ending coming only because I knew they were going to do the iconic, you know, clash of swords, and then you don't know who's going to win, because they did the same thing with Ryu Hayabusa versus Strider Hiru. And I knew that, even though I don't know a ton about Afro Samurai, I knew enough to know that Samurai Jack held the speed advantage. And once I knew that Samurai Jack held the speed advantage, I knew how this was going to end. In fact, if I'm being fair here, this fight is a little bit unbalanced, because realistically, Afro Samurai should not be able to keep up with Samurai Jack's movements, because Samurai Jack can move FTL, and Afro Samurai cannot. Thus, Afro Samurai would not even be able to perceive Samurai Jack's movements. But that's a completely different issue entirely.
Won the battle, only to reveal the grisly truth. And can we talk about the hand-drawn animation? While it's not a one-to-one copy of either style, though it does lean more towards Jack's, it really complements the fight much better than Sprite or 3D, and adds...
Once again, I cannot stress this enough. This is what I've been talking about for years. That sprite animation and 3D animation isn't always going to cut it. In fact, I've talked about that you can't always use 3D for everything, and you can't always use sprite for everything. There are some instances where sprite will be helpful, and other instances where you need hand-drawn animation. This is a death battle where if they did not do this hand-drawn, the fight would have suffered greatly from it. And I can't help but to notice that ever since Death Battle has been able to gain access to hand-drawn animation, episodes have gotten better quality for it. And I said for years that this is something that Death Battle needs to do. And this is a perfect example of why. This showed me years ago what Death Battle could be capable of with hand-drawn animation. And now, with Moro on their side, it has unlocked a new side of Death Battle that we rarely ever have gotten to see. And usually whenever we get a death battle from Moro, you can usually count that it's going to be good as long as they give Moro a good matchup to work with.
Its atmosphere and action. Definitely an upgrade from their first traditionally animated episode.
Oh, fuck me. Don't get me started on this episode. This is another episode that I purposefully avoided. By the way, if you all remember when I covered the worst rated death battles of all time, I mentioned this one. This is one of the lowest viewed death battles of all time. And oh gee, I couldn't possibly imagine why.
That's for sure.
Your sword smells of blood. So does yours.
Alright, number 1. Does anybody want to take a guess who hasn't seen this video what they think number 1 is going to be? And keep in mind, this is before the current season, so we're not going to see Bowser versus Eggman or anything like that. But I don't know. What do you think it's going to be? I want to say... try to think of what it could be. I got nothing. Okay.
What else were you expecting?
Not this one. I mean, I'm not going to say I think this episode is bad or anything like that. I don't know if I would say it's the worst death battle that they've ever done, even at the time. Let me double check. When did this video come out? Okay, so 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Okay, so even within the past, years, like, okay, yeah, sure, Bowser vs. Eggman wasn't out at the time, but even at the time, I do not think that I would have put this one at number 1. Sorry. I know that One Fish Mob is titled to his opinion, but on an objective scale, like I said, I like Iron Man versus Lex Luthor. I don't have a problem with this being on the list. I just don't know if I would put it at number 1. Especially knowing what we know now. With Bowser versus Eggman. Personally, I think I would have put Samurai Jack versus Afro Samurai higher than this. Or even Raiden versus Wolverine. Which doesn't even get a mention on this list for some unknown reason. Well, yeah, Sam Fisher vs. Solid Snake. That's another one I would have mentioned. Good call.
Best episode of season 2, but it's usually regarded to be the best episode of the entire series. And I do agree with that.
No. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a good episode, but whenever the conversation of best death battle comes up, nobody ever mentions Iron Man versus Lex Luthor. I shit you not. Whenever I've had a discussion with people about, peak death battle and all that stuff, this one never comes up. And like I said, I say this as somebody that does like this death battle. I think this is a very solid episode. I have very few issues with it. But I would not call this the best one, and I wouldn't even say most people think that this is the best one.
That notion for many reasons. First and foremost, unlike most episodes, the fight is less two people just punching each other for entertainment, but tells an actual story with a beginning, middle, and end, creating a very believable scenario where both would have a reason to fight each other. And the way the destruction feels and how the fight escalates from one moment to another is something I don't think has ever been replicated since. I like how it starts off with Iron Man being hopelessly outmatched by Lex in his base armor, and Lex, in all his egotistical glory, gloats about it the whole way. But as soon as he gets the Hulkbuster, the playing field is even out, and Iron Man begins rivaling Lex at his own game, complete with references so organically woven into the fight, it does not feel...
Okay, I'm gonna have to disagree on that. How were those references perfectly woven into the fight? Why would Iron Man just randomly have a storage room full of all these references? Help me out here. Even when I saw this death battle at the time, the references felt kind of forced to me. It's like, okay, we're getting teased other death battles. I'm not saying I have a problem with death battle leaving little hints here and there at future episodes, but to say that these were organically woven in, I don't follow. Now, this could just be a me thing, but I do think that the references felt a little forced. Because, first off, how the fuck would Iron Man know what the fuck Kingdom Hearts is unless Kingdom Hearts exists in the Marvel Universe? How the fuck would Iron Man get his hands on a fucking Dragon Ball? Again, unless Marvel characters are aware of Dragon Ball characters or Dragon Ball Z exists in this universe.
Still thrown in there for shits and giggles, but to just emphasize how rich Stark is. With honestly probably the funniest joke in the show's history.
Wait, is that
actually make a dent in your wallet.
What are you talking about? It's just a car. Seriously? What kind of car was that?
Which leads to what is easily the best ending of any death battle. Where
Once again, gigantic question mark. The best ending to any death battle ever. Again, I'm not saying that I think that the ending to this episode is bad. I'm just saying the best ever? Are you sure about that? In fact, Sauron versus the Lich King was out at the time of this death battle, correct? So, now that I think about it, where the fuck is Sauron versus the Lich King? I'm gonna double check this to make sure I'm not fucking crazy. Give me a second. I just have to make sure. Okay, I've never had that happen to me before. Let's see here. When did this come out? November 11th, 2022. All right. Now back to this. 2 years ago. Does it say the exact date of when this came out? December... You are a real piece of work, One Fish Mob. You know that? Sorry, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts. Because I'm trying to figure out how to put this nicely and not come off as a dick. But what the fuck, One Fish Mob? Where is Sauron versus the Lich King? Where is it? At the time you made this video, that was the best death battle they had ever done. Now, I know that Sauron versus the Lich King does have competition in the form of Bowser versus Eggman. And maybe someday I'll go over those two death battles and try to figure out which one is better. That will be a tough call. But at the time, that was the best death battle. Just like in the same way that, in fact, like I said, at the time, Naruto versus Ichigo was the worst death battle for the longest time. In fact, I'm going to go to his comment section right quick and ask him this because I demand an explanation. Give me a second. Dang it. Let me check the chat real quick. In fact, here's another thing. Not only is Sauron versus the Lich King not on this list, but while I don't have much of an opinion on Cypher versus Discord, only because I haven't seen it yet. If you are somebody that truly believes that Discord versus Cypher was a peak death battle, that death battle was also out at the time. So where's Cypher versus Discord? But just came out a month before. Yeah, this is just unacceptable. Now that I think about it, going back to my question from earlier, if I was to guess what I think that episode, that number 1 should have been, I would say Sauron versus the Lich King. Even now, post Bowser versus Eggman, I would probably still say Sauron versus the Lich King. This is fucking horse shit. No. No. Just no. Unacceptable. Oh, by the way, a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier. 17,000 subscribers. Can't even get 3,000 views. And he gets 22 comments. What the fuck? You see what I mean? This is all signs of a failing YouTube channel. And I'm not doing this to pick on the poor guy or anything. It's just an objective reality. I had less subscribers than this guy, and I could pull these kind of views back then on my old channel. Hell, even now, I've got barely 200 subscribers, and I've got videos that can casually just get 1,000 views or more like that. And I'm having to start all over on a new channel. How is this possible? Oh, and of course he did Pepsi Man versus the Noid. I remember me and one fish mob got into a huge argument over this one, which led to me saying something a little bit regrettable, but I felt the harshness was warranted at the time. I don't know, let's just try to finish this up. Even though we know that this is a fucking sham. I love Lex Luthor versus Iron Man as much as the next guy, but this being above Sauron versus the Lich King does not fucking work for me. The only way this video could be any more insulting is if this came out a month after Bowser versus Eggman.
We think Lex has won, but as he stands there, a silver strand flies in, revealing Iron Man to still be very much alive. And now...
Oh, and by the way, One Fish Mob, what the fuck is going on with your audio? Why is your audio fucking up? Could you not have fixed that or re-recorded your audio? Or could you not check to make sure that your mic was working? I know I've had microphone problems and audio problems. The difference is, I usually try my best to fix that shit before I upload the video.
Most powerful suit delivers a quote from the comics so well delivered, it feels like it was made for this episode.
I'm the most intelligent, capable person on the planet. I'm not playing God. All this time, I've been playing human.
Before giving Lex Luthor one of the most satisfying beatdowns in death battle history, complemented by a soundtrack so fitting that I thought it was custom made. When I first watched this fight all those years ago, it felt very close and had me on edge the whole time. This is without a doubt my favorite episode because it doesn't feel like a death battle, but a genuine story about a hero fighting a villain, where the hero has to adapt to the challenge and rise to the occasion.
Holy fuck, Fish. What is wrong with your audio? This is embarrassing. I know I've given you shit before for your audio problems, but seriously, do you need me to fucking be your audio mixer for you? Get in touch with me, I'll help you. Because this audio is not fucking acceptable. This is what I'm talking about when I say that this guy so doesn't give a shit. This is the same guy that once said that he would rather have a piece of burnt toast over a steak. And I'm not saying this to be mean. This is legitimately frustrating. You had to have recorded this and played this back to you. Or do you not edit your own videos? Actually, I take that back. I'm pretty sure you edit your own videos. How did this get past you?
This is a fight universally loved by almost everyone in the Versus community, and myself included. And I think it's safe to say this is, without a doubt, the best episode of Death Battle of all time.
Tell her I'm not here. I'm jogging.
I'm happy to say that while Death Battle has had its low...
By the way, did I hear him correctly? Did he say desk battle? I'm gonna rewind that real quick.
...of Death Battle of all time.
Tell her I'm not here. I'm jogging.
I'm happy to say that while Death Battle has...
Desk battle? Okay, I'm not trying to make fun of this guy if he has a speech impediment or anything like that, because I used to have a pretty bad stutter myself. But what the fuck was that? Death battle? This is reminding me of Wrestling Otaku, where instead of Seth Rollins, he says Seth Rollins. For some unknown reason. Again, if the dude has a legitimate speech impediment, I'm not trying to make fun of him for it. But if you don't have a speech impediment, then what the heck was that? Once again, could you not have re-recorded that line?
lows, and trust me, they
Oh, trust me, I can't stress this enough. That was not on my end. That was legitimately the audio of One Fish Mob's own recording. Because the rest of the video was not like that. He legitimately recorded that audio, heard that audio, played it back to himself, and kept it in the fucking video. That is just next level incompetence right there. It is either he doesn't give a shit or he is just that bad at making videos.
some incredible lows at that. But I am happy to say that their highs are thrice as high. I gave this show a lot of shiitake, but in truth, I really do enjoy the show, and I just want to see it improve and become better. Go beyond what it's currently capable of.
Okay, Fish, help me out here. If you want to see Death Battle improve and grow better, then why is it that you and your fans would always, especially back in the day, would fight against me so hard and so aggressively anytime I made the slightest criticism against Death Battle? You would always try to say that my criticisms were useless and just me hating on Death Battle just to hate on them. Yet we see that when Death Battle actually does listen to my advice, it actually improves Death Battle. And people are having conversations about how Death Battle is getting better and better, at least in some areas.
Because we've seen what it can do, and to say it peaked at Season 2 is just really painful to see. I don't know what the future holds, but I am excited for it either
Yeah,
way.
even today, I would say that I don't think that Death Battle peaked at Season 2. As much shit as I give Death Battle, I believe that pretty much every season of Death Battle has its golden gooses, and then other seasons have their just golden turds. I feel like I could go through pretty much every season of Death Battle and reliably find one episode that everybody can universally agree is one of the best, and then another in which everybody can universally agree is the worst. So I don't know if I would say that Death Battle peaked at Season 2. Hell, even some of the episodes we've gotten in the current season are pretty damn good. Some of the best Death Battle has ever given us. And again, Naruto vs. Ichigo is an example of Death Battle at its worst, not at its best. I would say you don't need to be a Naruto or a Bleach fan to be able to see that that episode is shit, but I guess apparently you do. And irregardless of what is in that episode, they could have done a lot more with that fight. They really could have. And again, the way they misrepresent Ichigo, it's not as bad as Naruto, it's not as bad as Madara vs. Aizen, don't get me wrong, but it's still pretty fucking bad. There are so many even just basic errors they get wrong that makes no fucking sense.
This show inspired me and others to make our own, and I hope it keeps inspiring others to this.
I mean, yeah, I'll give you that Death Battle has inspired people, but here's the problem. They haven't, you all haven't really done jack shit with this inspiration. Because I've seen a lot of shows like yours that have produced content that is way worse than the worst Death Battles I've ever seen. And that's saying something. I would like to remind you that way back when I reviewed his episode of Red vs. Sonic.exe, I can remember that episode was so bad, this dude forgot to put music in the background. He just forgot. And I had to freaking fix it for him. In fact, I would say that you all, maybe not every one of you, because there are some shows that have made some decent content. But I will say, in regards to you, One Fish Mob, I would not use you as an example of Death Battle inspiration gone right. You are an example of a cheap knockoff of Death Battle. That is what you are. You know when you go to the store and you see those cheap knockoff brands like Dr. Thunder and Diet Right and shit like that? Or frickin' S&M's? Yes, that is an actual brand of candy, by the way. You are the epitome of that. You are the cheap knockoff of Death Battle, One Fish Mob. You are not a spiritual successor to Death Battle. You have never produced anything that is even 5% of anything Death Battle has ever made. And I'm including the worst Death Battles they've ever made.
Discuss, debate, and enjoy the fiction we love for many years to come. And with that, I have now talked about my personal best and worst episodes of Death Battle. I guess I have nothing left to talk about regarding this show. Thank you for joining me on this journey.
Oh, trust me. He's going to end up having to remake this list. He's going to have to. Because of Bowser versus Eggman. He has to. Especially if I recall correctly, isn't One Fish Mob supposed to be like a very big Sonic fan or something like that? Or am I mixing him up with somebody else? Like, you're going to have to redo this. Redo this whole video. Okay, so now that we're done with that, let me regather my thoughts and see how much time we have. I'm willing to go longer if you guys want. I mean, I once streamed for 11 hours straight. But let me think about what other videos I can make a response to, because I was actually posting in my Discord and asking my fans some of the videos they wanted me to respond to. So let me take a quick moment to figure out what else I can respond to. Because I remember there was another one I was thinking about responding to. I just wasn't sure if I had enough time. I was thinking about responding to this guy who made his top 10 Death Battle soundtracks, but I guess my fans weren't interested. But if you do have any suggestions, please leave in the live chat if you have any ideas. One thing I was thinking about doing was reacting to the commentary that Death Battle made of Madara versus Aizen. That could maybe be something. I don't know if we'll be able to get through it all. But I know another video some people in my Discord wanted me to do was... what was it? It was another one of Nemesis's video. I think it was like the 10 characters he doesn't want to see on Death Battle. Alright, nice to have you around, Wolfie. I wish you could be here with us a little longer. But I do get it. Not everybody is a night owl like me. But I'll keep going for as long as there are people watching the stream. What about Buffy versus Blade? Can I get some context with that? Because I already covered Buffy versus Blade a little bit in my Rumble stream. Specifically, I covered Nemesis's review of it. And yeah, his review was certainly something. I'll say that much. I wish I could do a live reaction of Spawn versus Ghost Rider, but I've already seen the Death Battle. I could maybe still do it. It just won't be like my very first reactions. I don't know how to think about it. Let me look something up here. Maybe I can also do a reaction to Madara versus Aizen. But then again, maybe I should save that. Because I did tease, because much to my surprise, there were actually people that want me to do the Death Battle drinking game again. And somebody suggested that it should be Madara versus Aizen. And it's something I've been considering. So maybe I should save my live reaction for that, whenever I could ever do that. But that might be something I'll save for later down the line. Although I might have to really think about if I actually want to do that or not, because the last time I did that, I almost died. Let me see here. Check the chat real quick. Alright, I can do that. I was thinking about pulling up this Death Battle Madara vs. Aizen with commentary, but maybe I'll save that for another time. Let me see if I can find that video. Or I can just pull up Nemesis's channel, if I can. Last time I did that, I ran into problems. Okay, at least no problems this time. Of course, his reaction to Dante versus Clive is like over an hour long. Yeah, we're not doing that. I don't even know if even I have the time to do that. What the fuck? Did this motherfucker really fake a rematch between Fulgore versus Sector? And call it not Death Battle Special? Oh, fuck me sideways. The hell? Among Us versus Fall Guys was kind of great. Oh yeah, is that why it's quickly becoming one of the most ignored death battles and is probably going to end up joining the ranks of the lowest viewed death battle in history? But okay. I'm trying to find this video. I mean, actually, now I think about it, I did just post it in my Discord. I suppose I could just do that. Alright. Got the video up. I don't know what to expect from this one. Keep in mind, this video is like 40 minutes long. For some reason, this guy makes ridiculously long videos. But I bet one of his fans would shit on me for making too long videos. I mean, I wouldn't recommend playing the Death Battle drinking game either. That shit is fucking dangerous. If you're going to play a Death Battle drinking game, pick one of their good episodes, not one of their bad episodes, because if you pick one of their bad episodes, like Naruto vs. Ichigo, you will die. Probably the only thing that saved me was the fact that I didn't have enough alcohol to kill myself with. Okay, let's see. Oh, hold on. I don't know why this is muted.
don't like might at least be said by a character you like being in it, and then getting an analysis. Maybe even a good portrayal of the show, regardless of if it's not your preferred opponent. I am someone who is very open to new characters being on Death Battle, even if I personally don't know or care about them. It can be great to learn about characters I don't know, experience characters I've never watched or read, and just generally see how Death Battle handles certain characters. That said, I am not necessarily receptive to every combatant possible for Death Battle.
By the way, for those of you that saw the Rumble live stream, I had commented about how I don't really care much for Nemesis's, that's hard to say, avatar. And I can actually speak on this because I am a legitimate character designer. As you can see in that image I keep popping up, I make my own characters. Not just my little angel character. And I make them from scratch for the most part. And I don't know if he made this himself or if he commissioned somebody to make it for him. But I don't know about you, but his OC character is just very boring. And it's worth noting that his OC character is literally just Ragna the Blood Edge with purple hair. That's it. If you look back at his older profile picture, it was literally just Ragna with purple hair. Like, I know that I base a lot of my OC characters on other characters, but I usually do my best to not just take a character and just change their hair color and call it a day. Even if you could see some similarities, like, for example, my Angel character has some similarities between Mei Misaki from the anime Another, but I do enough to change up the design to make it my own and not just look like, oh, it's just Mei Misaki with a different hair color.
There are plenty of characters I personally don't want on the show or don't think belong, and that's what this video is about. Though I have to set a few...
That's rich coming from a guy that does a show where he brings in characters that have no place, not just on Death Battle, but have no place in versus debating. This motherfucker had Magikarp on his show. I don't think this is the guy that should be telling us who should and shouldn't be on Death Battle. Just saying.
Rule so it doesn't get too repetitive. Rule 1. No characters who don't fight. That is to say, no characters like those from one of those sitcoms or slice of life shows where fighting isn't a thing. It'd be too easy to populate this list with characters who...
It's worth noting that I get what this guy is trying to get at, but there are characters from sitcoms that do fight. For example, right off the top of my head, in the show iCarly, you have Samantha Puckett, who actually could fight. And whenever there was a situation where Carly and friends needed to overcome a threat through physical fighting, they would usually have Sam handle it. So I don't think it's fair to, like, say that you can't do sitcom characters. Again, I know what he's trying to say, but there are some sitcom characters that actually can fight.
Don't throw hands regardless of how important they are to any given series. Rule 2. No characters that I don't want because they're returners. It'd be really easy to just slap Batman on here and go, frankly, I don't want a fifth fucking episode with this cunt, but that's basically a different video idea. Rule 3. No religious figures. Admittedly, I kind of wish something as obvious as people religiously worship Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Shintoism, Hinduism, and more, and such it is rather poor taste to go into versus analyze them.
Look, maybe I just don't know Nemesis as well as I think I do. But Nemesis, you are the kind of guy that would do something like put Jesus on your show. You would do that. Don't try to pretend that you wouldn't.
It's obviously not okay and wasting time explaining it.
Oh yeah, not trying to ignore that guy. So if you haven't seen Naruto vs. Ichigo, and you're not a long-time viewer of my channel, sadly, yes, they did do Naruto vs. Ichigo, and they had Naruto win. And they had Ichigo die in a very disrespectful way. They tried to have Ichigo go out like a badass, but they made him go out like a dumbass and a bitch.
Fun. Rule 4, no real people. I think, again, unless it's a case where it's like Jim Carrey or Weird Al.
Okay. I've actually gotten into debates with people about this. What is up? Because I remember one Fish Mob said something very similar in his top 10 worst death battle episodes. Why is it that we can't do real people? Why? For example, there are a lot of people that want to see John Cena on Death Battle. Or Bray Wyatt. Or maybe even Bruce Lee. So what? We can't have John Cena on Death Battle? Well, John Cena's a real person, I guess. Like, what kind of crap is that? Like, why can't we do real people? Like, yeah, in some cases I could see why doing real people would be stupid and or potentially disrespectful. But for example, why can't we have Bruce Lee on Death Battle? That'd be cool. Why can't we have Brock Lesnar on Death Battle? Or John Cena? Or any other wrestler? Why can't we have The Rock on Death Battle? Stone Cold Steve Austin? The list goes on. Why can't any of those people be on Death Battle? What is up with this idea that you can only use fictitious characters in Death Battle? Do I have to remind everybody that the show that started all of this, Deadliest Warrior, was famous for taking real people and having them fight each other to the death? Why can't we do that? So what? We can't have Alexander the Great on Death Battle? We can't have Genghis Khan? Why? Give me one good fucking reason why we can't have real people on Death Battle. Did you just forget that Celebrity Deathmatch was a thing? Like, fuck you, Nemesis. You suck ass and you make no sense.
Where there's a character they play that is representative of themselves but with a heightened level of absurdism, or in Jim Carrey's case, just compositing all the roles they have played.
Once again, why can't Bruce Lee be on Death Battle? Why can't Jackie Chan be on Death Battle? Why can't a wrestler be on Death Battle? I don't get it. Why can't a historical figure be on Death Battle?
Or it's a joke battle that is not at the expense of any real people involved. Real people shouldn't be used on Death Battle.
How would that be at another character's expense? As long as they, I'll be fair about it. When Death Battle did Justin Bieber versus Rebecca Black, yeah, that was stupid. It was very disrespectful. Death Battle probably shouldn't have done that. However, though, if it's done in a respectful way, like for example, let's say hypothetically, Death Battle had Bruce Lee fight, I don't know, Jackie Chan or something like that. Would that be some kind of horrible dishonor if they did that? Or would that be potentially fun? Like, is that coming at the expense of Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee? Like, get fucked, Nemesis. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
And rule 5, I'm going to try and avoid characters that I just don't like, with one exception, because I thought I might as well include one. Otherwise, this list would most...
So, just like One Fish Mob, he's going to break his own rules. Like I've said to Death Battle countless times, why have rules if you're going to break them? What's the point of establishing a rule if you're going to break it anyway? Why even mention it? I swear, we're only a minute in. Barely. We're going to be here all fucking night.
This gives me complaining about not liking characters instead of why I don't want them on Death Battle. Okay, those are the rules. We good? Good, great, wonderful. To stress, this is all my opinion. If you disagree, that's perfectly fine. No worries. I'm not here to be...
Admittedly, this might just be me. But I really can't stand when people hide behind the "it's just my opinion" excuse. You know, if you're talking about something subjective like your favorite anime or movies, fine, I have no problem with that. But when people will do things like say, these are the death battles that I think are the best, and they'll say like, but it's just my opinion, it's like, no, have some fucking conviction. Don't fucking wuss out and say like, oh, well, hey, it's just my opinion just because you're worried people might disagree with you.
Anyone who wants these characters on Death Battle, I'm just saying, I don't want them. Let's get this show on the road. Here are my top 10 characters I don't want on Death Battle. Number 10. Okay, so I have to confess, despite the name of the video, this one is not necessarily my opinion. No offense to number 10, I haven't listened to the help of a famous indie YouTuber, Red Runner.
Okay. Again, off to a very weird start here. Okay, whatever.
To talk about it. To share my opinion on it briefly, from my limited knowledge and understanding, I completely agree with this take and have not seen any argument against it in discussions that have convinced me. But to avoid fucking something up in the relaying of the information, I figure I'll just give him the stage and let him do his thing.
Hello everyone and everywhere, whoever was or will be. I am Red Runner in another person's video. And why am I here? Well, to talk about a character that I 100% do not want in Death Battle. And one character fits that bill more than any other that I could ever think of, that being Monica from Doki Doki Literature Club. I hear people talk about her more than I would like in the Versus phase.
Well, I'll say this much. At least me and this Red Runner guy agree. I've been meaning to cover some of the... By the way, the reason why I'm pausing the video, it's so I can provide my commentary. And I swear I'm not trying to pause the video every 5 seconds. It's just the nature of reaction videos, because if you play the video without commentary, people get mad at you. But anyway, I digress. This is something I've been meaning to talk about on bad death battle ideas, and I may have done so in one of my past streams, maybe not. But Monica has no fucking place on death battle. She has no feats, she has no abilities, nothing. She's fucking useless. This character does not belong on Death Battle, and I will say at least we're starting out strong, because I don't care how you try to rationalize it, this character does not belong. She just doesn't. She doesn't do anything. This is the ultimate example of characters that just don't belong on Death Battle. I hate it when people say that, oh, well, almost any character can be on Death Battle if you make it work. Bullshit. So yeah, so let's see what he has to say.
And I'm sure some people might be surprised to hear me call her out specifically, because among a certain group, people treat her like a fourth wall breaking, reality warping god in the context of her world. And that's where I take issue. First off, this will not surprise anyone to hear, she is an 18-year-old high schooler. She has no combat experience whatsoever, and she's not going to be throwing hands with anyone. Let's just get that out of the way. And that reality warping that everyone seems to hype her up on is kind of overrated. She herself, multiple and repeated times throughout Act 3, admits how bad she is at coding the game, manipulating the code of the game. She isn't even capable...
Not trying to, again, constantly pause all the time, but here's what I'll say. In regards to her so-called reality warping, Monica does not have reality warping. What she has is the ability to fuck with the game's code. Which, as you just heard, she's not even very good at. She's not a fucking reality warper like Big Head or Grimmy or something like that. She's not. So stop that. And I really hate people that overhype characters that break the fourth wall. Not all characters that break the fourth wall are like Deadpool. There are different levels of fourth wall breakers. Some are a little stronger than others. Yes, there are some examples of people that break the fourth wall that are very powerful characters, like Deadpool, or even like some other Toon Force users like SpongeBob and stuff like that, where SpongeBob can literally break the fourth wall to use like screen transitions and stuff like that to get to somewhere faster. But you can't do that with a character like Monica, because Monica isn't even actually a reality warper. She's just some bitch that can rewrite code, and she's not even very good at it. And again, just because you can break the fourth wall, like, for example, Ferris Bueller can break the fourth wall. Does that mean you want Ferris Bueller on Death Battle? You want to put Ferris Bueller against Deadpool?
Changing the music in Act 3 without nearly breaking something. It's easy to look at what she did to the other girls in the game and say she has all this master manipulation, when not really. All of that is because of the character files she has access to. The character files which she herself points out are unusual. And even her just manipulating Sayori's emotions, making her depression worsen, and making her want to hang out. That chain of events almost damaged the game.
Hold on, let me check the connection strength again, because it looks like people are... Okay, once again, connection is fine. I don't know why people keep dropping in and out of the live chat. I hope that's just some kind of YouTube glitch. Because that's really fucking with me. Yeah, and I don't care if it's a popular matchup or not. It is a shit idea. Flowey versus Monica, that would not work on any level whatsoever. So, complete waste of fucking time. Okay, moving on. Back to the video.
Beyond repair, she was barely able to recover it. And frankly, it's unreasonable to say that if she were fighting another computerized character, there would just automatically be a character file for them. Nor would it have values to manipulate, like the obsessiveness or the depression, which means she, as an amateur coder, would be completely out of her depth and lost, leaving her with the only thing...
For example, if you put Monica up against a character like, I don't know, Agent Smith from The Matrix, who can rewrite code and stuff like that, that would be a stupid idea. That would not work on any level, because not only can Agent Smith rewrite code better, but Agent Smith is actually fucking dangerous and can literally hack and control human flesh. Also, Agent Smith can actually fucking fight.
She can actually do delete files, which she's also not good at. She herself is afraid of deleting herself if she deletes too much from the game. She could go nuclear, like in the bad ending for the game, and just delete everything, but I can't really picture that being an interesting interaction. What else is she supposed to do throughout the...
By the way, I think I've covered this in other live streams, but this game is fucking overrated and shit, and I can't stand it. I do not like Doki Doki Literature Club. It is a... Let's call it for what it is. It's a garbage creepypasta game. That's all it is. It's no different from shit like Sonic.exe. How anybody takes this seriously, and stop pretending like this game is innovative. It's not innovative. Somebody took a fucking basic bitch visual novel and turned it into a fucking shitty EXE game. Fuck Doki Doki Literature Club.
Especially considering what I mentioned earlier, she's too afraid to do that under most circumstances. The only reason she does in-game is because she's at the end of her rope and has given up on everything. So deleting files one by one isn't something she would normally do. Some people could point to DDLC+, which implies that maybe she's able to possess people now. Except that isn't even actually defined. That's an assumption people make.
Oh, Agent Smith is one of my all-time favorite film villains of all time. I love Agent Smith. He was actually my favorite character in The Matrix. Yeah, Neo is cool, Morpheus is cool, I love Neo and Morpheus. But Agent Smith, man, he just killed it every time he was on.
Feels like almost a disservice
What are
to
you
the
doing,
character
kitty?
to put her in verses, because there is no noteworthy part of her character that can be translated well into that medium without overblowing it or misinterpreting it. But I hijacked enough of this video. Let's move back on to what Nemesis has to say.
Yeah, thanks, man. That was a big help. Now for my opinion on things. Number 9. At 9th place, we have the character I don't want because I just don't like him. Placed here to just get him out of...
Which, by the way, it's worth noting, by my count, Nemesis has broken 2 rules by now, because he said no characters that don't fight. Monica is a character that doesn't fight, and then he said no characters that are on here just because he doesn't like the character. Well, that's 2 rules that he has broken, and we've barely even begun. We've barely begun. What the fuck?
A 9th place character is Cinder 4 from Ruby. As someone with a very strong love-hate relationship with Ruby that's definitely more directed towards the love side, I'm not too terribly interested with the series on Death Battle. I want Ruby versus Maka, and I like Crow's options, with my favorite being Gordeau from Under Night.
Ruby versus Maka was trash and was never going to work and made things awkward. And one thing I will give Nemesis credit for, at least he's not one of these Nimrods that goes around saying that we need Cinder versus Zuko or Cinder versus Azula. I'm tired of that shit. Cinder versus Azula and Cinder versus Zuko are garbage ideas for matchups. What's different between Cinder versus Azula or like Cinder versus Zuko? Well, actually, let me take that back. What's different between Todoroki versus Zuko and Zuko versus Cinder? It's the same fucking shit. Fuck Cinder. Fuck Ruby. I'm tired of these fuckers showing up on Death Battle. Almost every time Ruby has ever shown up on Death Battle, it always ends up sucking dick.
But I don't really care for most other characters being on the show. But one, however, is my all-time least favorite character in the series and one of my least favorite characters of all time. I cannot fucking stand Cinder Fall. I think she fails as a villain, she fails as a character, and she fails as an antagonistic force. As a character, Cinder is someone who just progressively got lamer and lamer as the series went on. Volume 1, she's this mysterious figure we see at the start and get teased about at the end of the volume, which is cool. Volume 2, she's this big mastermind and the main threat. Volume 3, she's still the big mastermind, but a lot of her weight is taken away when we learn that the whole time she was just someone else's pawn. When Volume 4 comes along, we learn that not only is she someone else's pawn, but she's just another in a group of multiple pawns, so she's not even special amongst them. Volume 5 has her nearly get killed by Jean fucking Arc, and features her prominently getting her ass handed to her in a fight. Volume 6 continues with her getting ratioed, and then barely features her otherwise.
Oh, by the way, these fucking talentless hacks just literally had the audacity to steal the fucking missing eye thing that was in Bleach, where a character is revealed to have like some kind of like hole or some weird thing where their eyes should be. Like, that's some fucking bullshit, which is one reason why I can't stand Ruby. All it does is just take from other anime, but doesn't actually do anything clever with it.
And then Volume 7 and 8 showcase Cinder succeeding by coasting on everyone else's success, and because everyone else is a fucking idiot. Neo really does all the heavy lifting for her, and in Volume 7, her two big attacks end with her getting fucking ratioed as well. As a villain, Cinder lacks any presence or threat. Despite wielding immense power, we've rarely seen her actually do anything with it. And in fact, our first showing of the power...
By the way, are motherfuckers really trying to insinuate that Cinder has connections or is on the same level as Zuko or Azula? Say what you want about Avatar: The Last Airbender. Say what you want about Zuko and Azula. They were threatening, capable villains. Especially in regards to Azula. She didn't start to, like, lose her aura until she snapped and went crazy. But you want to try to say that, oh yeah, Cinder, she's just like Azula. She's just like Zuko. No, she's not. Azula and Zuko would eat this bitch for breakfast. I don't fucking care how powerful she is.
Is Amber getting her ass handed to her by 3 people dogpiling her. Half the time her animation is goofy. Her breathing fire out of her mouth will never not be really funny looking. And her voice acting. My god, is her voice acting just the absolute worst. Some of Cinder's line deliveries are among the worst I've ever heard in voice acting. It's not like Transformers Headmaster.
Well, that could just be said about the entire cast of RWBY, because pretty much every voice actor that they got for this show is fucking useless. There is no such thing as good voice acting in RWBY. There's no such thing as good animation in RWBY. Just nothing in RWBY is good. It's all shit.
Level of bad, but at least that's so bad it's actually hysterical. Cinder is just awful to listen to with half their deliveries, trying to do a sultry, seductress voice that does not gel well with the way some lines should have been delivered. And as a character, it took 7 volumes to get any idea of her motivations beyond a drive for power. And even then, we really didn't get anything more. We just got a backstory with the most heavy-handed and unsubtle song in the series, and then her mentor being some asshole who sees her in a state of emotional duress, and decides to club her head in. Cinder is an awful character, an awful villain, and an awful antagonistic force. And unlike most other awful RWBY characters, she doesn't have fun quirks, interesting moments, or just a general feeling of I like seeing this character on screen. What else is there to say about Cinder? Honestly, not much. She's such a nothing character. She's impossible to take seriously, and she's so try-hard in the most pathetic way possible. And all of her accomplishments can be attributed to the successes of other characters. She beat down Beacon because of Watson Salem's planning. She survived Blender because Roman flew away. She snuck into Atlas because Neo could hide them. She outwitted Atlas because Wasp did all the work and had all the contacts. And took all the relics charge to get the other. Cinder is useless. I despise this character immensely. Can't wait for her to die in the show. Really don't want her in Death Battle. Number 8. One of the things I like to see most on Death Battle is the character being portrayed just as cool as they are in their series, through the usage of direct showings and accomplishments.
So then let me ask you something, Nemesis, because I don't think I've seen your videos on it. How do you feel about Madara versus Aizen? Because those characters were not represented well.
That's why I don't mind Marvel and DC episodes when they're inconsistent with how characters scale between episodes. Yes, Aquaman could have been scaled to wherever they place Wonder Woman, but at the same time, it's way cooler.
I may have accidentally misspoke. Sometimes I can accidentally, fuck up what I say because I talk very fast, but if I did say that, I apologize. Earlier, what I was trying to get across was Zuko and Azula would eat Cinder alive. And again, I don't care how powerful Cinder is. Cinder ain't doing shit to Zuko, she ain't doing shit to Azula. Azula and Zuko were actually effective villains with good backstory.
Focus on this awesome thing that Aquaman did with his own bare hands. Sure, sometimes skilling can be made to be very impressive, but one character immediately comes to mind as the opposite of this. At number 8, we have the Fire Lord Ozai from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Well, speak of the devil. Of course he likes Madara versus Aizen, just like Fish. There's no way that this guy is fucking consistent. Madara versus Aizen is horrible. The way they portray Aizen, I'm not going to get into it, but the way they portray Aizen is fucking bullshit.
I really like the Fire Lord in his own series. The lack of appearance for 2/3 of it adds a lot of anticipation and build-up. You get to see how strong Zuko is in Book 1.
My main problem with why I would not want to see the Fire Lord on Death Battle is because due to the fact that the Fire Lord remains in the shadow throughout most of the series, he has almost no feats to power scale off of. We only see Ozai fight one real battle, and that's against the Avatar. We never see his duel with Zuko because it never happens, and even his eventual encounter later on, all that he does is fire some lightning at Zuko, Zuko bounces it back at him, and that's it. There's literally nothing to really scale off of. All you've got for Ozai is one fight. Just one fight.
Azula in Book 2, but you're always left with this nagging feeling in the back of your head like, but the Fire Lord, and the Fire Lord shits on both of these guys. How ridiculous is he? By the time of Book 3, it seems like finally showing him in full would take away from the impact of his battle with Aang. But of course, you can't just not show him for the entire 3rd book, because that takes away a lot of the presence of being in the Fire Nation, and thus finally really seeing the character. So with the addition of Sozin's Comet, it adds that unknown factor back in again, while also letting Ozai shine a bit more and interact a bit more with other characters. Sure, now we know what Ozai is like normally, but that's just what everyone...
Okay, where are you going with this, Nemesis? One of my problems with Nemesis is that he'll ramble, and then you have no clue where he's going, and then he'll just immediately contradict himself, and then go off on a completely different rambling.
Hopes they'll be fighting. Who knows what power they'll have when the comet is overhead. And so his final battle with Aang is made incredibly daunting by the sheer power he's showing throughout. There is a problem, though, in translating this to verses, because as a result, Ozai has essentially no showings of power that can be talked about in Death Battle without the aid of Sozin's Comet, which pretty much puts a dampener on all of what he has done. Basically, any on-screen feat of his that isn't this very brief scuffle with Zuko is going to be forcibly given that very impact-destroying caveat of, but this is something he only did with Sozin's Comet. And it's going to be really problematic if none of his own feats, even when buffed, end up being as impressive as stuff like...
Well, so here's another question I have for Death Battle. When they did do Zuko, why was Sozin's Comet not mentioned? If the comment... hopefully I'm not saying comment, I'm trying to say comet. If Sozin's Comet gives firebenders the ability to operate at their peak in the same way that the full moon allows waterbenders to operate at their peak, why would you not allow a firebender like Zuko or Iroh, for example? Because let's be real, Iroh's going to show up on Death Battle someday. It's going to happen. Why would you not give them Sozin's Comet? If the whole point is to look at these characters at their peak power, and I'm also referring to you, Nemesis, as well. Why would you not give them Sozin's Comet? If you want to look at them at their most powerful. Now, granted, Sozin's Comet is very hard to scale because we don't know to what degree that the comet actually amplifies their abilities. Same with the full moon.
Town level accomplishment. Because then if they actually calculate any of his feats and then caveat them with this is when he's buffed too, he'll end up looking really pathetic next to this is a child with no buffs who did this thing that's way more impressive. So they can either not calculate any of his stuff and just fully rely on scaling, which is
by the way, Nemesis, Aang had the same buff that Ozai had. Aang was also able to use the buff from Sozin's Comet. So, yeah. Just putting that out there. Aang did have buffs. And also, the Avatar State itself is a buff.
they do an episode, or they can calculate stuff while bringing up that it's when he's buffed and then rely on scaling.
Yeah, unfortunately, Kumo, I can tell you from experience that there are a lot of very rude Death Battle fans out there. Especially, like, they're very vitriolic towards me. Like, you could say the slightest bit of criticism towards Death Battle, and they will just say the most vicious, vile things that they can think of. It's very messed up. Don't even get me started on the stuff they've said to me. Like, I've had Death Battle fans say things so bad that I had to delete their comments and block them.
Children, which is just going to make them look lame. I'm sure there's probably some middle ground that can make Ozai look cool and his analysis not be lame, but I just don't feel like that middle ground is one that'll be struck. From my point of view, everything that makes Ozai so great and imposing as a villain in his home series leaves him antithetical to Death Battle's format. I like the guy, but I'm not dying to see him on Death Battle anytime soon. Number 7. There aren't many full races that are often requested for Death Battle, and rarely do we actually get them on Death Battle. For the most part, cases like Yoshi tend to refer to one particular character as if there's only one Yoshi, or in cases like specific Pokemon where they just sort of aggregate. Personally, though, I'm not the biggest fan when they do this, and one creature in particular I really...
Oh boy, see, this is the problem with Madara versus Aizen. Whenever the conversation of Madara versus Aizen comes up, it causes a fucking shitstorm. Because Death Battle poorly handled it so fucking badly. And guess what? Spoiler alert, Aizen would decimate Madara in every single way possible. Oh yes, you better believe I remember that some... Hell, that's not even the worst thing anybody said. When somebody said, "Alright, Kumo, see you around." I'll still probably be streaming maybe till midnight, so if you poke back in, it'll be nice to see you. Definitely nice having you. But going back to what I was saying, yeah, that's not even the worst thing somebody said to me. Yeah, I made my rant video and somebody said I should be on a watch list, which is just stupid because it's just a silly little rant video for entertainment. But I can remember I had to make a video about this where some asshole said that they would rather watch Daisy's destruction than watch my videos. And for those of you that know what Daisy's destruction is, then you know. But I'm not going to go into detail about it because that's too dark. But the fact that somebody would say that is unacceptable. Yes, I've seen Madara's feats. They are inferior to what Aizen has done. Yes, I'm fully aware of Madara's feats. They do not compare to Aizen's feats. It doesn't matter what feats Madara has, because Aizen, through the Hogyoku, is able to evolve as the fight goes along. And Aizen has more impressive feats. Not to mention, Aizen has better abilities, better intelligence, the list goes on.
Don't want to see this for. At number 7, it's going to be the Xenomorphs from Alien. And when I say this, I mean just generally Xenomorphs as a whole. Specific characters like Specimen 6 from the Aliens vs. Predator video game or Grid from the Alien vs. Predator film are perfectly fine. Hell, even the Praetorian cast Predalien from Alien vs. Predator Requiem is it's the only of its kind we've ever seen in the series. What I don't want is just a general aggregate overview of the Xenomorphs as a whole, because I feel like it's just not interesting. Or at least, it is too interesting, because a lot would have to be left out, and plenty of their appearances in film haven't even been Xenomorphs. It comes down to the question, what Xenomorph do you even use for an aggregate Xenomorph? The standard Xenomorph XX121? Even with them, there's so many casts that really cannot be combined into a single individual. With drones, we have alphas from Alien Bloodline that are very unique. The films alternate between domed, carved, and ridged.
Here's a very simple solution to this. Nemesis, and this is not that difficult, and this is how I would do it if I had the Xenomorphs on Blood Royale. You do a squad of Xenomorphs versus a squad of whoever the Xenomorphs are fighting. You have multiple Xenomorphs, each represented by the different types of Xenomorph that exist. Have a queen, have a regular grunt Xenomorph, have a heavy Xenomorph, so on and so forth. Have maybe a squad of a queen Xenomorph and maybe 5 other Xenomorphs or 4 other Xenomorphs that are represented by different types. That's all you'd have to do. It wouldn't be that difficult. That's exactly what Deadliest Warrior would have done. You just have a squad battle.
Variants. Stronger drones known as palatines are known to exist in multiple comics as well, and bio-drones from the Enemy of My Enemy novel. There are super regenerative drones known as Onslaught Genome Warriors that exist, and they eat tons of media across the franchise and have subclasses in Carriers and Ravagers. But then, these aren't even the peak of a Xenomorph's life cycle. The iconic drone, which most people would want to see, is basically the third weakest state in a Xenomorph's life after a chest burst from a facehugger. As they grow into Praetorians...
Or, like I said, going back earlier, here's what you do. You get a Xenomorph queen, and then you have the Xenomorph queen lay eggs that lead to the other Xenomorph races showing up. That's all you'd have to do. All you'd have to do is find whatever Xenomorph represents the Xenomorph at their peak. If it's not the queen, then get the one that is. All you'd have to do, because I know there have been Xenomorph breeds that are stronger than the queen, but all you'd have to do is just get a Xenomorph queen. Again, this doesn't seem that difficult to me.
And then later into queens. You might think, okay, let's just use a queen then. Ignore how that's far from the most iconic visual appearance of the Xenomorph. But then a standard queen is still not the peak of a Xenomorph lifespan. That's just the basic model of a queen cast. And yes, I know of the royal face like a concept from Alien 3 establishing the queens as separate as a thing to drones. But that's since been retconned in here so that any drone could potentially evolve into Praetorians and then mold further into a queen if they live long enough. But then the queen can evolve even further into the Empress, which is much stronger, and then further into the ultimate Xenomorph, the rarely seen Queen Mother. And even then, there's...
Wow, and I thought I overthought shit. This isn't that fucking difficult, Nemesis. You are making this way more difficult than it needs to be. Just find the Xenomorph race that represents the Xenomorph at their peak power. This is not fucking complicated. This is why it takes forever to get through one of your videos.
The even rarer scene, King Cast. So rare that some people question its canonicity. It's several stories taller than a queen, and the strongest Xenomorph period that we know of is basically a super queen built specifically for combat and not egg laying. And you can see the problem, right? How do we enforce the rule that Valve's users of taking a character at their peak? Even with similarly problematic characters they've used, like the Yautja, it was fairly simple to determine what a peak Yautja is. Even though we rarely see them, a full-blown Yautja Spearmaster is the peak of the Yautja species. Sure, they didn't give the Spearmaster peak equipment like Phoenix armor, but the concept was there. The peak for a Xenomorph...
By the way, way to just completely ruin the aura, the aura of the fucking Predator and the Xenomorph by playing stupid clips like this. Great, thanks. Now I'm never going to take both these alien species seriously ever again. Nice job, dickhead.
Is not the one that most people would want to see, but rather a rare subspecies variant of an already rare-to-see individual. And limiting the Xenomorph to just the drone would be extremely lame, because you're basically feeding one of the weakest Xenomorph classes to an opponent, or saying their opponent is so weak and lame that they can't even beat a basic nobody unit. I also don't think putting Xenomorphs into an army battle makes it any better. Xenomorphs don't often come up with these complex tactics and strategies that make army battles cool, and most of the time we see them solitary anyway. And what really doesn't help is that we haven't seen a traditional Xenomorph in a film since 2007, with any film since only featuring the Deacon, the Neomorph, and the Praetomorph from Covenant and Alien Covenant. None of these are Xenomorphs, despite how close this one looks to one. And I'm sure plenty of people still think it'd be cool to have a Jobber Xenomorph against someone in Death Battle, because they could do it like they did the Predator. However, to Predator fans, I feel like
okay, if they're not Xenomorphs, then why even mention them if they're not Xenomorphs?
Problems with that is obvious. A ton of assumptions had to be made in that episode that really watered down the deep lore of the Yautja, and a lot was left out. The idea of different clans and their different equipment was ignored, and instead we got an aggregate of all clans that could never possibly exist. The purpose of the self-destruct secret was ignored in favor of this Spearmaster using it like a bad blood. as self-destructs are only used defensively in extremely dire situations and never for one-on-one battle. Bad Bloods, in fact, go completely unmentioned in the episode, and despite giving this hypothetical Spearmaster access to every single clan's catalog of weapons...
Oh yeah, full disclosure, I also have not seen the Predator versus Boba Fett. Maybe I'll check that fight out and give my first impressions on it, because I have not seen that one. There's still quite a few death battles that I need to remember to check out.
Armor options were completely ignored in favor of saying that, nah, they barely cover themselves in armor. Every cast and clan of Yacha does that, yeah. As such, the analysis gives us a...
By the way, death battle, will you stop bringing back Boba Fett? Torian went on a rant completely ripping Boba Fett to shreds on one of your Death Battle cast episodes. Boba Fett ain't shit. Most of the cool stuff that Boba Fett does, he does in the EU. He doesn't do anything cool in the actual movies, and the Boba Fett TV show made Boba Fett lame. Okay? So get fucked with this shit. Please stop bringing Boba Fett on the Death Battle. There are much better Star Wars characters you could be using.
Very watered-down explanation that focuses almost entirely on what's versus relevant, instead of actually covering the species in its entirety properly. As such, likely a similar thing would happen with a Xenomorph, and that's just not something I want. I'm sure casual fans would love it, and that's fine, of course, but...
Yeah, well, Nemesis, it doesn't always matter what you want. And as I've seen from your own little personal versus show, I've seen what you actually want to see, and what you actually want to see doesn't fucking interest the average Death Battle viewer.
...has dedicated a lot of time and love to the Alien vs. Predator dual franchises and their mixing canonicities and such. I really worry that an Alien episode is just going to end up massively generalizing a highly complex species. Mixing things that cannot be mixed within canon, and putting it all into a weak drone, or having that drone somehow evolve millions of times faster than it should into a queen or king during the animation. None of which appeal to me as a fan of the franchise. Number 6. So I wanted to avoid just dropping whole franchises, and especially anything creepypasta related, because it felt too easy. But there was one series that fell into a middle ground for me. At number 6, we have a bit of a generalization. The SCP Foundation. As a whole...
Oh, this guy might actually have said something that'll turn a large chunk of the Versus community against him. Because SCP episodes are very popular. Like, I don't think Death Battle has done an SCP yet, but I do believe that... I know One Fish Mob has, and I've gotten requests from people that have said that if I ever make Blood Royale, they want to see an SCP on Blood Royale. I mean, we'll see what he has to say, but, yeah. I imagine, like, this is gonna piss some people off, because, like I said, these matchups are very popular.
I think there are very few anomalies and characters warranting Death Battle appearances. To be clear, I'm not saying there are none that could be on Death Battle. Some blatant ones, like SCP-682 and the Scarlet King, kind of fit just generally, and even some oddities like Dr. Clef I could see as totally being viable for Death Battle. But then I see a lot of SCP matchups floating around with objects that I personally don't see the appeal of having in Death Battle. A lot of SCP's creativity doesn't come from the stat lines and combat ability of the entries, but rather the creativity, intrigue, and mystery that they bring. There's obviously a few problems that everyone brings up that I would be amiss not to mention. Obviously, footage on screen is a problem. Now, we have seen them deal with this in multiple ways before. Most notable to me is Sauron from Middle-earth, who they got away with using a lot of artwork and stuff along with his very limited screen time. But even he has plenty of visual representation.
Okay, video footage is not always necessary for a death battle. If I was doing an episode of Blood Royale and I was dealing with a character that didn't have a lot of video footage, I would just use artwork. Or I'd commission somebody to make something for me. Like, that seems like a very minor complaint. Ilya, what are you doing?
A lot of SCPs primarily have balls of text and maybe 2 or 3 images at most. There is not a lot of media to go off of for visual representation in an analysis. Of course, they could use fan-made videos and credit them similar to what I'm doing for the purposes of this video, so that's possible. And there's also the issue of disparate canons, which frankly I don't necessarily think is a big deal. Death Battle often mixes canons and composites characters. If anything, this would arguably...
Yeah, and people usually hate Death Battle whenever they do it. People don't like it when you composite
The problem with how Death Battle generally operates, as opposed to a specific SCP problem. Characters like Leonardo, Optimus Prime, Static Shock, and Godzilla are all composites, so if Death Battle just combined where its main focus is how strong and unkillable it is, sure, that's fine. But something like SCP-173, where its main focus is the horror aspect of being that you'd be killed if you blink, less so. I also can't say I'm so good with the animation with Heaven's Thought, as most SCPs come in a few flavors. You have just a building, which obviously doesn't bring much, rarely seen entity with one or two abilities usable in combat, or something that's basically just a static object that does something slightly odd. Although I'm not against
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying to keep her quiet. I don't really... Without going too much into detail about my personal life, I am living in a RV trailer kind of thing. So it's not very big, and I don't have like a room I could put her in or anything like that. And she's too young for me to let her outside. So, yeah, I'm sure nobody's probably bothered by the cat, but usually when I do my streams or record my videos, I like to try to remove as much background noise as possible, but there's just not too many rooms in my trailer that I could put her in where you wouldn't hear her.
Or Abel versus Kane from WWE, I think it'd be really cool if it played the
fucking course, don't worry. I'm gonna cover the WWE matchups that I see one of these days. Believe that.
Fiction nature of both SCP and WWE, and had Wiz and Boomstick talking about the two not as fictional characters, but as if they were real people within the world, and the hosts were talking about them like this is a documentary. Scarlet King vs. Zolgo would be interesting if we talked about them as if they were actually old mythological deities from the real world that have since been forgotten to time.
Zolgo. That's a creepypasta character, isn't it?
And with Zolgo, they primarily stuck to Fear Mythos, which is basically just creepypasta and SCP Foundation. But a lot of SCPs just don't work for me, even ones with matchups that I kind of vibe with. SCP-049 is one of my favorites, and I really thematically like him versus either a Slepius from Fate or Herbert West from Lovecraft. But I don't think either are a good fit for Death Battle, or SCP-049 himself. But hey, people can like what they want, obviously. If you want to split, go ahead, I don't care. Number 5. Mythological matchups. People want more of them. There are some big ones and there are some minor ones, but a lot of them prove one thing. Most people do not read or really know what they're talking about. And it's really sad seeing people want matchups for characters who really have nothing going on. And I think the biggest one for me...
Once again, of all the things that you could have put on screen as video footage, why that? That was very cringy. What, you couldn't just put up some images or videos of fucking Greek mythical characters, or maybe just get some footage from the Fate franchise?
The saga and related texts. Fafnir is frankly extremely boring and offers nothing. He's not the only mythological character like that. People also want episodes with Chernobog and Anubis, both of which similarly have basically nothing going on and never do shit. In Chernobog's case, it's because most of his stuff Fanon's lost. The story of Fafnir basically goes like this. First, he's a dwarf. Then he takes a cursed hoard and covers it for too long, killing his dad in the process. Sometime later, the hero Sigurd digs a hole while Fafnir is out drinking water. Fafnir has become a dragon now. On the way back to his home, Fafnir is stabbed in the heart by Sigurd when he goes over the hole, and then says some shit to Sigurd and dies. And that's it. That's Fafnir's whole story. Despite being such a famous name and one of the most well-known named dragons of all time, if not the most well-known, at least in mythology,
okay, I don't think I've ever heard of the dragon Fafnir before. I've heard of Singe. I've heard of Smaug. I've heard of Blue Eyes, Red Eyes. I've heard of Charizard, Dragonite. I ain't ever heard of Fafnir, I can tell you that much. I know a lot of different dragons. I don't know who the fuck Fafnir is.
He kills his dad as a dwarf, hides away, wears a helmet that scares animals, and he produces poison from his body that can be avoided by just ducking. He's massive, we know that, but we don't even know what he looks like. Most commonly, he's not even depicted as what you probably think of when you think Fafnir. He's depicted as a long serpentine creature without wings and just tiny legs. So if you're imagining Fafnir like this, this is more accurate. He also doesn't breathe fire. Like, I read the Volsung saga, he doesn't breathe fire in it or in any related text, he just produces poison and scares animals away. So he really doesn't bring anything to the table. He does nothing, he never fights, and his story can be summed up in one sentence without missing any terribly important details. So Fafnir even be. Most of it will be the story of Loki killing his brother, fighting with some gold, and then him taking it. And then as a dragon, what he did was have a drink shake the area by walking, fart, poison, and die. He can probably talk to birds too, I guess. In fact, it's hard to make this segment longer because that's I don't think I need to explain any further. He may be the most famous dragon, but he doesn't do anything, and will often
The most famous dragon, yeah. Nemesis Bahamut would like to know your location.
Number 4. Yu-Gi-Oh! A series people question the usability of on Death Battle, but it really is.
Oh, this is going to be very juicy considering the next death battle that's coming. I love when things fall into place like that. I really look forward to seeing if this guy sticks to his guns and rejects the new death battle. No, they weren't calling me Kitty. They were saying that they heard my kitty cat in the background.
It's as hard to work as most people think. Yugi, Bakura, Marek, Jaden, and lots of other characters have mystical abilities to make their monsters physically present. And characters like Kaiba really only need to fight someone in cyberspace to get access to monsters outside of Obelisk, which makes sense for Kaiba because he owns many methods of entering cyberspace.
Well, also, Kaiba can actually fight. He doesn't always do it, but Kaiba has overpowered a couple of people in a physical altercation before, and he has access to technological weapons as well.
But there is one particularly popular character, one of the greatest in the whole series, who has no way to fight anyone. Our 4th place is Joey Wheeler.
What?
Look.
Are you fucking high, Nemesis? Okay, this dude don't know shit about Yu-Gi-Oh! I am not gonna fucking watch you fucking disrespect Joey Wheeler. That ain't gonna fucking fly. This is some fucking bullshit right here. First off, it is established that Joey Wheeler was a delinquent and a street fighter before becoming friends with Yugimoto. It was said in his backstory that him and Tristan would go around getting into street fights with people. Something that almost led to his death in the first volume of the manga when a bunch of dudes tried tasering him to death. Joey can fight. Yeah, he can mostly fist fight, but he can fight. And if you give him the benefit of the doubt of having access to his monsters through like some kind of cyberspace battle or something like that, like what happened with the Noah arc, Joey can fucking fight. Yeah, he can't fight in the same way that Kaiba could, or Yugi, Bakura, or Marek could, but Joey can fucking fight. This is bullcrap. Also, hey, jackass, how about you get the dude's name right? Joey's not even his real fucking name.
Joey is great, but he has no way to fight. So let's look at the ways in which Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters characters can get into a battle with real monsters and see whether Joey has any of these. And this is just Duel Monsters, the era that Joey's in. Number 1, Shadow Games. Characters with Millennium items can summon real physical monsters through Shadow Games or even out of them. Bakura has done that in battle, for instance. Within the Shadow Game, anyone can summon a monster.
Yeah, in fact, that's another thing. Joey is implied to have superhuman attributes, or at least some kind of high level of spirituality. Because if you remember, Joey has fought in Shadow Games before. And if you remember, when Joey fought against Marek, the rule of Marek's Shadow Game was that your life force is tied to the life force of your monster. Whenever a monster died, Joey and Marek lost a piece of their soul. And keep in mind, Joey tanked an attack from the Winged Dragon of Ra and still lived. Yeah, he collapsed and went into a coma shortly afterwards, but Joey was literally having his life force get sucked from him by Marek's Shadow Game. And he survived. What are you fucking talking about, Nemesis? This dude fucking took a direct attack from the Winged Dragon of Ra that attacked his soul and lived.
During the Dark RPG, which was also caused by Bakura, Joey is able to summon real monsters. However, Joey has no Millennium item or mystical abilities that would allow him to create a Shadow Game in the first place. Number 2, Cyberspace. Characters within cyberspace can summon monsters that physically affect each other in the real world. However, the only characters who have access to cyberspace are the Kyber family and the Big Five. Joey doesn't have the ability to just go into cyberspace at will. He's a broke Brooklyn man from Japan who's still a school student. Number 3, Seal of Orichalcos. I guess technically you could argue this is a kind of Shadow game, but it's a different origin. Battles that use the Seal of Orichalcos have real monsters summoned. This includes Joey's battles against the likes of Mai and Rex Raptor in this arc. However, Joey doesn't have that card. Number 4, certain monsters. Certain monsters have the ability to summon themselves in the real world. These monsters are, well, within Duel Monsters, just the Egyptian god cards. However, this might shock you, Joey does not have Obelisk the Tormentor, Slifer the Sky Dragon, or the Winged Dragon of Ra. He also doesn't have the Leviathan, who potentially also has this ability. What I guess he does have is the Claw of Hermos, which seems to be able to summon Legendary Knight Hermos into the physical world at the end of that arc. But at the same time, Joey doesn't have the card that makes the Claw and the Eye and the Fangs summon the Legendary Knights. Along with that, he doesn't even have the Claw of Hermos anymore. And the only thing Hermos ever did in the real world was instantly die. So, yeah, that's not gonna work. Those are the 4 options to summon real monsters within Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. And as you can see, he doesn't really have any of them except maybe the Claw of Hermos, which even then is kind of useless.
But am I hearing that right? The Claw of Homos? The heck? Well, that's just silly. Alrighty. Sorry, I'm just taking a look at the chat. Alright. Let's see if we can get through this without me dropping dead from a heart attack.
The question now is, what exactly is Joey supposed to do in a versus battle? Yeah, it really goes as far as that. Joey cannot summon real monsters. In a versus fight, Joey is just a guy with holograms. And that just does not sound very interesting at all.
Once again, I reiterate my other point. Even if it's not exactly what you would have in mind for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Character showing up on Death Battle, Joey is a street fighter. Joey is a street brawler. He was a delinquent. Joey can get into fist fights, which he has done before. One of the elements of how Joey met Yugi was that he used to bully and beat up Yugi.
And no, you can't just say the monsters are real for no reason, because how would you scale them?
Oh, okay, Nemesis, I'll play your little game. What if, hypothetically, you put Joey against a character that is also known for fighting in cyberspace, like, I don't know, maybe a character from The Matrix, maybe one of the faggots from Sword Art Online, how about that? Maybe, what about one of the characters from Dot Hack? If you're gonna, like, deal with these death battles where Death Battle will bend over backwards to make a death battle work, why not? Why does this have to be, like, so impossible? Like, I agree that there are a lot of problems with doing Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters. That's why I think you're better off just doing a Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster like Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl or something like that. But even then, that runs into problems because they don't always have, like, a lot of lore that you can scale off of.
Scale them, because they've never fought anything in the real world, so they'd have no scaling. Number 3. Some characters are perfectly viable for versus physically, with feats, arsenals, and abilities. But just because that's the case doesn't necessarily mean they should be in versus. Case in point, number 3, the Iron Giant. The Iron Giant is a very well-beloved film based from a book. Anyone who has seen the movie should be aware of 2 things. 1, the Iron Giant is perfectly capable of throwing hands and beating ass. He has feats, he has abilities, and a huge arsenal. Number 2, the whole point of the Iron Giant is that despite that, he's not a gun. He isn't that guy with all the weapons and attacks who destroys all the things. He chooses not to be that. That is the antithesis of who he is inside and what he wants to be. To focus on primarily that element as the subject of an episode, because no matter how you...
Yeah, doesn't Death Battle also have a rule where even if they bring on characters that have, like, a no-kill rule or something like that, they will have the character break that no-kill rule? So if it's okay for Death Battle to force characters to break their no-kill rule if they have one, then why would the same not be true of, like, the Iron Giant or something like that?
At the end of the day, the focus of a death battle is just on the combat abilities of the combatants, feels like it is antithetical to the point of the film, the character, and the book. And this is where we go into, I guess, darker subject matter. The film was directed by Brad Bird, who at the time had recently lost his sister Susan after she was shot to death by her estranged husband.
By the way, this is totally relevant to why this character shouldn't be on Death Battle. I mean, you could have just left it at that and moved on. I don't know why you got to give us this completely unnecessary lore dump. So much so that I might even just fast forward this whole fucking segment because I'm getting sick and tired of your fucking rambling, Nemesis. Let me see if I can get this right.
Again, Death Battle also analyzes characters at their best. And that's not a slight towards Death Battle and their rules. I understand why they are in place and why they are the way they are. But it just does not work for the Iron Giant. You cannot make a video where the subject is, could the Iron Giant kill this guy, or will the other guy kill the Iron Giant in a fight to the death, and not have the primary focus at the end of the day be on the Iron Giant's ability to be a gun. And there are some people who don't understand this, and, like, I guess maybe it's a confusing thing for some. But the main point being made is that Death Battle, by its nature, is about the Iron Giant's capabilities as a war machine. While everything about the Iron Giant as a book, a film, and a character is about how that's not what he is, just because he was made with that purpose in mind. Let him be happy. Let him just be on his own, and you don't...
Okay, so... Nemesis. What about characters like Aang, where even though, yes, he can fight, he hates violence and goes out of his way to avoid violence, something Aang himself admits. Yet Aang killed Edward. Why is that okay? There have been, like, Yang apparently in Ruby supposedly has some no-kill rule, yet they had Yang kill Tifa. Why is that okay? Poe doesn't make an effort to go around killing people. Like, help me out here. Like, what the fuck is this guy saying? Death Battle has had characters show up on Death Battle that were characters that either had no kill rules or did not, or were not known for violence or went out of their way to avoid violence.
You don't have to have them go berserk for the sake of the animation. Number 2. Again, this one's kind of broad, but I see matchups like these all over the place, and I cannot overstate my hatred for them. Real animals. Just actual animals in Death Battle. Not even prehistoric creatures, not fantastical beasts, not cryptids, but actual...
It's worth noting that there used to be a show back in the day that did just that, where they would actually analyze animals and have them have a fight to the death. Just saying.
Animals. I absolutely despise the concept of there are lines where, okay, sure, it can be fine. There are lines where, okay, sure, it can be fine. For the purposes of a gag, then it's okay. If it's intended to be subversive, because actually it's also including random myths made up about the animals, I suppose that's fine too. But when you completely unironically take a creature as gentle and loving as, for example, a gorilla, and put it into a fight to the death where you only focus on its abilities as a mindless killer, then you are doing something wrong. Plenty of predators in the world already have a very negative reputation as mindless killers. Lions, mindless killers. Lions, tigers, jaguars, cheetahs, hyenas, wolves, sharks, given the stigma of just being bloodthirsty monsters who want to kill humans because they lack morality and are pure killing machines. As someone who loves nature, and has always loved nature,
that's why it would fall on Death Battle to actually accurately give the facts about retarded. Understand that there's a lot of myths about animals, and that most animals are not mindless killing machines.
Grown up with documentaries on how beautiful this world is, and has been exposed to just how amazing the life on Earth really is. I despise those stigmas more than almost anything, and putting these creatures into a scenario where the focus is just which one in a mindless fight to the death would kill the other, just unironically, no jokes, no gag, is against anything I'd ever want to see. These are beautiful creatures. They have a role in this world, and they all deserve to live, even if humanity is progressively bringing them to the point of extinction, and nowadays forced into trying our hardest to delay the extinction that we're causing and bring numbers back up. And where the animation will not literally have animals killed.
Ah, crap. Buffering. Okay, Wi-Fi's looking good. Stream says excellent connection. Oh, wait, nope, never mind. Oh, dear, please do not crash on me.
Each other? Obviously. But I just do not want to see a simulated representation of a vicious battle between a mindless tiger and a mindless lion. Animal violence in the wild is fine to me because that's how life is. But glorifying these creatures as
So, I guess Kangaroo Jack is out of the question for this guy? Yes, I am being purposefully facetious.
bloodthirsty, mindless killers fighting to the death as a result of their natural bloodlust is disgusting. I cannot overstate how much.
And you're going to deny that there are animals that don't have bloodlust? Or don't act on impulsive rage? Okay. I'm not saying I want to see, like, real-life animals fight each other on Death Battle. I think Death Battle is already dumb enough as is, and already disrespectful enough as is. But I'm just saying, we're going to look at this, because I'm somebody who also loves animals and watches the same nature documentaries, you're going to deny? I'll put it to you this way, Nemesis. Do you know that a dolphin is capable of rape? Dolphins can rape not only other dolphins, but they can rape human beings. That is something that can happen. Baboons, I watched a whole documentary about this. Baboons are known for their aggressiveness. In fact, baboons are the bullies of the animal world. Their hierarchy is miserable. They live in a hierarchy of the strongest survive and the strongest get to do whatever they want, while the weak get stepped on. It's very similar to the human hierarchies we have.
They viscerally despise unironic versus matchups that use real animals in them. I have nothing more to say. If you cannot understand my problem from this alone, then there's really no way I think you'll ever be able to understand. Earth is a beautiful world. We shouldn't paint it in shades of red.
I disagree. I personally think that this world is rotten and should be burned to the ground, but okay.
Okay, number one is going to be probably the most controversial one, because I know this is a character heavily requested for Death Battle, and the Death Battle themselves want to use him. And I want to stress that I don't have any problem with people wanting him a Death Battle. But after reflection, I can say the character I want to see the least on Death Battle is Gilgamesh from the Fate series. I love Gilgamesh. But
This is interesting. Ugh. Why is the quality drop tanking? Great. Now, I'm of two minds about this. On one hand, Gilgamesh is a very broken character. Like, extremely broken to the point where it's almost unfair. And I've said that characters like Gilgamesh might need to be banned. But here's the thing. I don't know what his reasons are, but even as broken as Gilgamesh is, he's not the most broken character in fiction. There are characters that would make Gilgamesh their bitch. No doubt about that. And I've had to cancel so many fucking blood royales because of how broken this guy is. But, on one hand, if you're going to say that he's too broken, then how does it make sense to bring in characters like Galactus, Unicron, Simone, and stuff like that? Like, these are characters that are equally as broken. Hell, look at the people that want to see Dr. Manhattan. Okay, signal's back now. Let's see if we can watch the rest of this video without something going horribly wrong.
What I love about him is not the same as what most people love. Most fans of Fate have only really experienced Fate Stay Night and maybe the Fate Zero anime. And I'm not here to gatekeep and say...
Speak for yourself. Yes, I have seen the anime, but I've also played the Fate video games, Fate Grand Order, Fate Extella, Fate Extella Link. In fact, me and my close friend, we talk about Fate and Fate lore a lot. In fact, that was how me and him became friends, because of a discussion of the villains of Final Fantasy versus the servants of Fate. So, yeah. I mean, I do like the idea of doing Fate characters in a Death Battle format. Now, of course, I don't want Death Battle going anywhere near certain Fate characters, because I don't fucking trust them.
That, oh, you haven't experienced Extra, Extella, and the Fate Grand Order games. You're not a real fan. I'm not here to do that. But people primarily think of just Fate Stay Night Gilgamesh when they think of the character. And to me, personally, that is by far my least favorite incarnation of Gilgamesh in this series. I don't hate him, because he shares a lot of the same traits that make Gilgamesh so entertaining to watch. The arrogance, the haughtiness, the overwhelming presence and power behind him. But to me, what I love about Gilgamesh is who he is deeper than that. Despite his role as an antagonist at points, Gilgamesh is a hero. He's the first hero. He is the groundwork from which everything we consider kingly originates. Gilgamesh to me is quite a deep character with a lot of complex elements going into him. But due to Stay Night and general ignorance, he is...
Personally, I wouldn't list Gilgamesh as a traditional villain. He's more of an anti-hero. And from Gilgamesh's perspective, he's usually not the villain in most situations. At least from his point of view. I know even villains see themselves as the hero, but Gilgamesh doesn't do what he does out of evil, necessarily.
Normally seen as purely an arrogant egomaniac who respects nobody and is borderline evil. That is not at all who Gilgamesh is.
Well, yeah, no shit, because even if somebody only saw Fate Zero, they would know that Gilgamesh is capable of respecting somebody, such as when he had respect for Iskandar.
He's arrogant, yes, he's chaotic, but he's not evil. Morally, Gilgamesh kinda stands on his own. He is the judge of both good and evil in his eyes. His rule is the only rule. But he isn't evil by really any means, just because he doesn't listen to others and sees himself as the best. Even then, Gilgamesh has a softer, more subtle side to him. He's gentle towards children, for instance. He partakes in their games and spends time with them without causing them harm.
What? Gentle towards children? Well, actually, this is a little bit of a mixed bag, depending on how you want to look at it. But gentle towards children, do I need to remind you that Gilgamesh literally murdered Ilya? Now, I know that technically Ilya is not actually a child. People just think that she's a child, even though she's actually 18. But it is worth noting that Gilgamesh did kill Ilya. And Gilgamesh was also attempted to murder Shiro and Rin. Just putting that out there.
Loves the heart of man as well. He loves the kind of humans who have goals and dreams that surpass what they could ever accomplish, but push towards it anyway, whether they're evil or not. Kide Kotomine is quite evil, altruistic, and Iskandar the Great is kind of sitting in the middle, but he sees them all as individuals who have that kind of arrogance that he likes. In many ways, Gilgamesh can be said to simply love humanity itself. And Gilgamesh is not someone who will just have this massive ego and nothing else. He respects plenty of other people, and rarely is it because of their raw power. He respects Iskandar for his arrogance and his goals. He respects Ivan the Terrible for how far he pushed himself as a sovereign. He respects, though he reprimands as well, Emperor Qin for how far he pushed himself as well when they were human. Really, the only character he might respect for their power alone is Kana, but even that is arguably because he sees Kana as the pinnacle of a hero for who he is and not just his raw power. But that's where I have issues with how I believe Gilgamesh will be handled in Death Battle. Because most of the scenes, character traits, and depth that I love from Gilgamesh come from the likes of Fate Extra and Fate Grand Order. The only other time he has this level of depth to me is Fate Zero, which is popular and has plenty of great scenes like this, arguably most notably...
Crap. Why does this always happen? Yes, for those of you that have maybe figured out, because I am a huge fan of the Fate franchise, my cat is named after Ilyashvili. Not Ilya from Legend of Zelda. I didn't even know Legend of Zelda had a character named Ilya. Either that or I just forgot about them. No, I named her after one of my favorite Fate characters, Ilya. Again. Sorry about this, guys. I might have to get me better internet. Not sure if this internet's gonna cut it. I mean, you guys can talk about in the chat whatever you want. You don't have to talk about specifically whatever's in the stream. I mean, as long as you guys aren't being jerks to each other. They better not be doing this death battle. Like, hell no. I don't want death battle to go anywhere near Saber, Astolfo, Heracles, none of them. Keep them the fuck away. I don't fucking trust them. Hell, I don't even trust Nemesis. Nemesis not only did Saber versus Urza, but he had Urza beat Saber while openly admitting that Urza would never be able to win against Saber because she's too fucking powerful. So this is fucking bullshit. Like, I swear, like, I know there's a good chance Death Battle better not do it, but Death Battle better not do that. The last time Urza was on Death Battle, it caused fucking problems. And I don't want to deal with the fucking Fairy Tail fans going apeshit on the Fate fan base, because believe me, that's not going to go well for them. And also, Saber versus Urza makes no sense. Urza doesn't have diddly fucking squat in common, or even has any meaningful connections between Saber and... Other than the fact that, okay, well, I guess they use magic, that's it. Urza is a shit, garbage, worthless character, and Saber is not.
When he spares Waver's life because Waver was defiant against him and kept following Iskandar even after Iskandar's death. You know, because Iskandar was a king worthy of Gilgamesh's acknowledgement, and if Waver disrespected that by giving up, then Gilgamesh would have killed him without a thought. But the thing is, that's not what Gilgamesh...
By the way, this contradicts what he just said, that Gilgamesh will not kill kids, because he just said that Gilgamesh would have been perfectly willing to kill Waver, had Waver not kept fighting after Iskandar's death. So, yeah, wonderful job on remaining consistent.
Most well known for. Death Battle was most likely characterized him primarily as the arrogant dickhead he is in the Fate anime and the Unlimited Blade Work anime.
And guess what? That would be incorrect of Death Battle to do so. But guess what? Fate Strange Fake is coming out, and from what my friend has told me, Fate Strange Fake, the version of Gilgamesh that we see is completely different from the version of Gilgamesh that we see in Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night. Now, yes, I do agree that if Death Battle misrepresented Gilgamesh as a character, but don't act like you have any qualms about Death Battle misrepresenting characters when you have no problem with Madara versus Aizen. Death Battle did not properly represent the characters of Madara or Aizen. So don't pretend like you care about the representation of characters when you have supported Death Battles where Death Battle has openly had a character behave in a way that they otherwise wouldn't. Don't pretend that it's about this. And yes, it would fall upon Death Battle's animators to do Gilgamesh justice. Not Death Battle's animators, Death Battle's writers to do Gilgamesh justice. But if you're going to act like that Death Battle potentially mischaracterizing Gilgamesh is why you don't want to see him on Death Battle, that's horseshit. At least my concerns about Gilgamesh being on Death Battle make some sense. He's too broken. If you look at all the crazy shit Gilgamesh can do, he is absurdly fucking overpowered.
Which I completely understand, because that's the most popular and well-known version of Gilgamesh.
Okay, get fucked. That is a version of Gilgamesh, but that is not even Gilgamesh's full personality. That is just a version of Gilgamesh's personality. It would be like only using the version of Saber that we see in Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero, when Fate has evolved as a character, as has Gilgamesh and other characters. There's this thing called character development.
I know plenty of people who only know Gilgamesh as the golden bad guy who is endlessly arrogant and powerful. That's all they see.
That's not Death Battle's fault. That is the audience's fault. And also, don't pretend like you give a shit about any of this when you did Saber versus Urza and you disrespected Saber by having Urza win. Get fucked.
And that's what they want in Death Battle. Sure, I get it. I see what the appeal is, but as someone who has Gilgamesh as his all-time favorite character in this franchise, and one of my favorite characters in all of video games, that isn't what I personally want to see. As far as I'm concerned, I believe Death Battle would have Gilgamesh show respect to his opponent for how powerful they are, leading to why he brings out Ea, rather than because he can see their heart and who they are. And I might even do this for his most popular opponents.
Why wouldn't Death Battle do that? Answer me. Why wouldn't Death Battle, assuming they do their research now, I don't know if Death Battle are fans of Fate or not, or if there's anybody on the Death Battle crew that likes Fate. But if Death Battle did their research on this, because I have revealed that this is an idea that I have for Blood Royale. I want to do Astolfo versus Bridget. And I have a story that I want to tell with Astolfo versus Bridget, and I'm not going to lie. Astolfo versus Bridget is going to be a fight that is not going to be 5 minutes long. It's going to be a longer fight because there's a story I want to tell, and I want to be able to show the conflict between Bridget and Astolfo properly. Again, I don't know why people act like that all death battles have to be, like, super short. They don't have to be. That's just Death Battle's choice.
It's just an issue with the show's general format of 3-minute animations, and not necessarily a problem with how they write. They have to work within their limitations.
By the way, this guy had a similar length animation for Saber versus Urza, and I don't even think it had any dialogue in it. So what kind of fucking leg do you have to stand on, Nemesis?
And I can understand that. Also, Gilgamesh's personality is heavily influenced by the time period he's summoned in. So if you're wondering why he acts kind of different outside of Stay Night, that's really the reason. His goals and the people in the world around him affect how he acts as the sovereign of all mankind. So in Fuyuki, he's particularly pissed off all the time, and on much more way in the past, so if Gilgamesh was summoned then, he would not act like his Stay Night self, but that's how they portray him anyway, because that's what's most popular. I also don't think I'd be particularly Gilgamesh portrayed as a shitty melee fighter in the animation, because the Dean anime adaptation of the Fate Stay Night game and Fate Extella both exist, and show him kicking...
And why would you assume that Death Battle would not fucking acknowledge those games? I feel like even Death Battle would be able to figure out that Gilgamesh is not like a guy that goes around swinging around swords. They would understand the way that the fucking Gate of Babylon works. What is your point? This whole rambling is a waste of fucking time. Look, I am somebody that has very low faith in Death Battle, but even I can acknowledge that even I would think that Death Battle would be able to understand how the Gate of Babylon works and use that in an interesting and unique way. Gilgamesh has never been known for being a guy that's a melee fighter. He has never been represented that way. Not within the Fate fan base, not within the anime fan base. I don't... What... I'm just going to reiterate that this is the same jackass that said that Urza could take Saber in a fight.
of ass in Melee. Anyway, that's kind of my piece on that. I understand why Death Battle would most likely portray Gilgamesh the way they will. It would simply make the most sense to characterize him from his most well-known incarnations and traits that the majority of people would recognize. But it's
Then why do you like Madara versus Aizen? Why would you defend Madara versus Aizen? Why are you okay with Death Battle not characterizing Aizen correctly, but you want to fucking bitch about how Death Battle might mischaracterize Gilgamesh? Make it make sense, Nemesis.
I personally want to see from Gilgamesh. Not shitting on anyone who wants to just see...
Again, it's not always about what you want, Nemesis. It's about what makes sense for the character. It's about what the fucking research and evidence says. I agree to an extent that I would not trust Death Battle to accurately portray a Fate character, because they can't even fucking portray a Bleach character accurately. But even so.
Golden man shooting a ton of weapons and saying Mongol endlessly, but that doesn't appeal to me personally. And that's why the character I want on Death Battle the least is my favorite character in the Nasuverse, the King of Heroes and the Wedge of Heaven, Gilgamesh. Oh, that was that video. Can't wait to see how the comment section responds to this, huh? Here again, no disrespect.
It's about all I can take of your shit, Nemesis. Holy fuck, that one hurt. I mean, I could see why people wanted me to respond to it, but geez, Nemesis, you are an inconsistent fuckwit. Your reasons make no sense, your logic makes no sense, and why is it okay for you to disrespect and misrepresent Fate characters, but Death Battle doing it is just unacceptable? Piss off. Gotta be fucking kidding me with this dude. The audacity of him. Okay, I'm just gonna go through the chat and I'll look at some comments. I might cut the stream off here, maybe, because, you know, the stream keeps having connection problems, and it's about like 10 over here. I don't know where it is over there for you guys. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not willing to have the stream go on longer. I just don't know if maybe we're all starting to get burned out, but let's look at some chats, and then we'll see if I can keep the stream going. We'll see. Let's see here. This is true. Hopefully this will pop up. Let me see. Oops. Wrong thing. Hopefully this comment pops up. But yeah, that is absolutely true. I remember back in the day when I would listen to the fairy tale fans talk shit, and then I'd say, okay, let's have Urza Scarlet fight Gilgamesh. They would fucking run scared. Now, this is one that I've spoken about before. Rin Tosaka versus Misaka Makoto. That is one that I really, really want to do for Blood Royale. And actually, I did. You can't see the video anymore, sadly, because it got taken down, probably because of a bullshit copyright strike. But I made a video of, like, ideas that I had for Blood Royale, and one of those ideas was Rin Tosaka versus Makoto Misaka. I'm trying to work on a new Blood Royale trailer for it. I've just been having problems finding footage. I want to try to get that done at some point. But yeah, Rin Tosaka versus Misaka Makoto. Death Battle completely shit the bed when they had Makoto Misaka fight Killua. That was a stupid idea. She should have fought Rin Tosaka. That would have been a much better fucking opponent. Not only does Rin Tosaka actually have the power to match Makoto Misaka, but it would be a more interesting battle. This shit was just fucking retarded. Hunter x Hunter had no business fighting a fucking Assert Magical Index character. No disrespect to Hunter x Hunter. Hunter x Hunter is a fine anime, I have no problem with it. But Hunter x Hunter characters are not built like Fate characters. Fate is one of the most powerful anime series of all time. Fate characters range in power from 6th dimensional on the low end to 10th dimensional at their peak of power. Even the weakest versions of Saber, for example, are 6th dimensional threats. So realistically, yeah, a Hunter x Hunter character is going to stand no chance against a Fate character. And again, I'm not saying that to disrespect Hunter x Hunter, it's just that Fate is just a really fucking busted universe. Of course he thinks that, even though it contradicts everything he just said while he was complaining about the way they might mischaracterize Gilgamesh. But it's okay to mischaracterize Aizen, though, because for some reason, it's fine to disrespect and lowball Bleach. But no, God forbid that somebody mischaracterize his precious Gilgamesh. Now it's all of a sudden not okay. But when other people's favorite characters get mischaracterized, no, that's perfectly fine. The reasons for why he killed Elia were pretty straightforward. Spoilers for the Fate franchise, by the way. So, if you don't want to hear any spoilers, I guess either mute, I can't give you a time code, but I guess spoilers. Just like mute until I tell you it's okay. Give me a second. I'll send a message when it's okay. So just if you don't want to hear spoilers for Fate, then just mute it and I'll tell you when to unmute it. But in the Fate lore, Ilia Spiel von Einsburn is a vessel for the Holy Grail. And she and her mother is what is used to summon the Holy Grail into the physical realm. Gilgamesh wanted to be able to get his hands on the Holy Grail, so he killed Ilia, the vessel, to get her heart, so he would be able to summon the Holy Grail into the realm. Is the basic gist of why he killed Ilia. See, this thing just, this kind of shit right here, hold on, give me a second, makes me want to respond to his video, but maybe I should save that for another stream or another time. But how can he say that Madara and Aizen are portrayed completely accurately? Does this motherfucker not know anything about Naruto or Bleach? I can tell you as a Bleach fan, the way that they characterized Aizen was bullshit. That is not how Aizen behaves. The whole, I can remember, the scene that really pissed me was that scene where, like, Aizen and Madara are laughing maniacally like madmen. That's not fucking Aizen. Aizen would never do that. Aizen is not that kind of guy. Aizen is always calm, collected. He never would just start laughing like that shit. So, no, to say that they characterized Aizen the right way is wrong. It is not. They completely mischaracterized Aizen. And while we're at it, they didn't do any better of a job with Madara. Yeah, they did a little bit of a better job with Madara, but even the way they portrayed Madara is incorrect. And this shows that Nemesis is either a hypocrite or he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But then again, this is the same guy that calls Ghost Rider a fraud because he lost Death Battles where Death Battle said that he lost, even though he otherwise shouldn't have lost, and called him a bum because of shit Death Battle said. No, Death Battle should not be trusted. Death Battle has shown themselves to not be trustworthy when it comes to the way in which they choose to portray characters. The way that is, Madara isn't even the only example. They have mischaracterized plenty of characters and made them behave in ways that they otherwise would not behave in. And it's bullshit every time they fucking do it. Yeah, I might have to cut it off here, guys. I am starting to feel a little bit tired. Don't know when I'll be able to stream again. I'll definitely try to stream again and stream more often when I can. Still trying to get in the habit of things. I'm also going to try to get some more videos out, like my prediction video for Ash versus Yugi is something I've been meaning to make. But I also, like I said, I want to get that Blood Royale idea thing for Rin versus Mikoto, so we'll see if I can get that done. So, yeah, now that I know that apparently I can live stream on YouTube after all, I don't know what made YouTube all of a sudden decide that I can live stream, but I won't question it. So yeah, now that I know that I can live stream on YouTube again, I'll probably try to do this more often. Maybe I'll see if I could do one tomorrow. Maybe not, but we'll see. I know I do have somewhere that I need to be appointment-wise on the 17th. So, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for joining. Hopefully this stream didn't run completely poorly. I know there were some times where the stream didn't run well. Hopefully when it gets archived, it'll run fine. And yeah, I'll try to figure out when I can stream again. I'll try to see if I can get some kind of streaming schedule going. We'll see what I can figure out. But yeah, thanks for joining the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And definitely, like, leave any video suggestions either in my Discord or in the comment section of this live stream, and I'd be happy to report. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of it. I'd be happy to react to other videos like I used to. I know there's a lot of videos I've been thinking about responding to, like Death Battle's commentary track on Madara vs. Aizen, or maybe even this jackass's review of Madara vs. Aizen, because after seeing the way he feels about Gilgamesh, I want to see how this guy rationalizes the disrespectful way in which they chose to portray Aizen. But we'll see. But yeah, thanks for joining, and I'll see you guys around next time. No, real quick before I go, no, Rin vs. Quagmire is something that I made as a joke to poke fun of bad Death Battle ideas. I would never seriously do Rin Kokonoe versus Glenn Quagmire, not even as a joke. Because Rin Kokonoe is not even a character you can even do in a Blood Royale format, or a Death Battle format for that matter. Don't get me wrong, I love Rin Kokonoe to pieces, but I would never try to put her on Blood Royale, in any kind of serious way anyway. So, no, I was talking about Rin Tosaka.